Please be upstanding for Her Honourable the Mayor and Deputy Mayor.
Please be seated. Good evening. Sorry, I got sidetracked by the dog. Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Council. My name is Councillor Carol Jewell and the Mayor of Wokingham will chair this meeting. Before we start the business set out in the agenda, I'd like to go through a few preliminaries. Please note that the meeting is currently being webcast live. There are no fire drills planned this evening. If the fire alarm sounds, please leave the building via the nearest exit and gather at muster point 2, which is located in the car park at the rear of the building. Anyone requiring assistance should remain seated and await the assistance of building support staff. A reminder that councillors do need to stand when speaking in the chamber, and when speaking, please speak directly into the microphone. If councillors turn away from the microphone, the sound will not be picked up for online attendees. Can councillors ensure that their nameplate is clearly displayed in front of them? And may I remind everyone that I intend to adhere strictly to the timings set out in the Constitution. Apologies. Are there any apologies for absence?
We have apologies from Councillor Mark Brunel-Walker and Councillor Beth Rowland is attending online.
Any others to report? That's it. Okay, thank you. Next is the minutes of the previous meeting. Unless I've got any comments or questions, may I sign the minutes of the meeting held on the 26th of February as a correct record? If I could have a show of hands, please. That's carried. Thank you very much. Item 115 is declarations of interest. Does any councillor wish to declare an interest on any item in the agenda? And can I remind members they must specify the nature of their interest and which agenda item their interest relates to? David.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Agenda item 130, I am a non-executive director of Optalis.
Thank you. Greg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to declare an interest in item 130 as I am directly employed by Optalis. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other declarations of interest? Oh, Stephen and then Prue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My declaration of interest is also in item 130, statements from council-owned companies, and I'm making the declaration of interest because I'm a director of the Wokingham Borough Council Holdings Limited.
Thank you. And Prue.
And guess what? Also a declaration in item 130. I'm a director of WEC Holdings as well.
Thank you very much. That's all the declarations of interest. Mayor's announcement is item 116. It was a privilege to be at the first performance of the Wokingham Philharmonic Orchestra held in All Saints Church. The musicians delivered an excellent performance demonstrating effective collaboration between participants of varying ages. The sound was wonderful and enjoyed by all. This month I was delighted to present the Mayor's Awards. The borough continues to demonstrate exceptional volunteerism and charitable engagement. The awards recognise their dedication and commitment to our community. The many volunteer charity organisations invited spent the evening networking, finding out about each other's work. Also recently, I attended the school's mock trials. Pupils compete against each other to play both the role of the prosecution and defence for a given scenario. Their performances were impressive and highlighted the amount of preparation they had put in beforehand. I'm delighted to report that 2 Wokingham Borough schools came first in the morning and afternoon sessions, and those were Bow Hunt and Embrook Secondary Schools. They will go through to the next round. Finally, before we continue, I'd like to thank all councillors for their service to this authority and to the communities you represent. I want to offer particular thanks to those members who have decided not to stand for election again. Your commitment, hard work and contribution to this council are sincerely appreciated, and we wish you every success in the future. To those standing again, I wish you the very best. Standing for public office reflects a continued dedication to public service and to public democracy. On behalf of the council and our residents, thank you all for the role you play in supporting effective governance and democratic decision-making in this borough. That takes us on to item 117, which is public question time. I'd like to remind executive councillors that responses to questions must be no longer than 2 minutes, and these will be timed. I'd also like to remind people that if there is a supplementary question, it does need to be a question rather than a statement. We have 10 public questions. Mr. Johnson, I believe you're on Teams. Will you please put your question to the Executive Councillor for Children's Services? Are you there, Mr. Johnson? No answer came the reply. Okay, I think what we'll do is continue, and if Mr. Johnson appears or contacts us, we'll move him in on later on. So item 117.2, Michael Firmager is asking a question of the Executive Councillor for Active Travel, Transport and Highways. Michael.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for that one. Yes, my question is, many children cross Rushy Way in Lower Early to go to and from Hawkton and Loddon schools. This stretch of road does have fast-moving traffic, and during the rush hour, there are traffic jams. To help protect and increase road safety of children, their parents and other adults who escort them across Rushy Way, the installation of a crossing would make these journeys safer. However, there is a small and narrow traffic island on that part of Rushy Way that does offer very limited sanctuary, but is still extremely dangerous. What is the executive member going to do?
Thank you, Michael, for your question. As I shared with you when answering a similar question last month, we have an established process for reporting and assessing such concerns via our online road safety report form, where users are asked to review the list of existing reports before reporting a new concern. The list of issues and indeed the main road safety webpage both state that in response to concerns raised by members of the public and local schools in this area, we are already intending to install a crossing on Rushy Way near to Hawkerton Road and close to Hawkerton Primary School. This would also serve people walking to Loddon Primary School from that direction, and there are 2 other crossing islands further in that direction along Rushy Way. The design for this crossing has been completed, and we intend to install this in the 26-27 financial year.
Michael, do you have a supplementary?
I'm very surprised and happy to hear that answer. There's also, like the other part I rose about Kilnty Drive, there's also a 20-mile-an-hour limit during part of the day in mornings and afternoons along that part of Rushy Way. I'm just really wondering, have any of those speed limits or that speed limit, I know it's advisory, not enforceable, but has it been exceeded in any way? Thank you.
Yeah, that was your supplementary last month, and I did write to you responding to that question. Our method for measuring speed adherence doesn't allow us to determine speeds when when temporary advisory limits are on, and speeds when they're not. So I'm afraid I'm not able to answer that question specifically.
Thank you very much. Cleo, could I ask if you could let me know when Mr. Johnson appears? Otherwise, I'll carry on. Thank you. Item 117.3 is Samina. Sorry, I'm not going to attempt the surname. I'll probably say it wrong. You've got a question of the Executive Councillor for Housing Partnerships and Local Plan.
Thank you. It's Samina Waliyavital Shamsuddin, if you want to try next time. And I'm raising this question just to give you an idea about on my expertise on climate scientist of 25 years of work as an air pollution modeler and land surface modeler and satellite data analysis. So the question is, given that the University of Reading's own research identifies Langley Mead and Hole Farm as environmentally sensitive land requiring protection for SANG, and given the well-known local flooding in these areas, what independent, publicly available evidence demonstrates that buildings are here will not worsen flooding, traffic congestion, pressure on already stretched schools and surgeries, or create increased health risk from particulate matter emissions, pollution caused by prolonged construction activity? And if these impacts worsen in the coming decades, particularly with climate-driven flooding, who will take responsibility for the consequences for existing residents? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Samina. The Loddon Valley Garden Village proposal has been informed by significant technical work, including studies on the risk of flooding, transport and viability. The proposal has been designed to place homes and jobs in areas outside the fluvial floodplain, as informed by adjustments for climate change. The new community will be supported by a comprehensive package of infrastructure, including new primary schools and a secondary school, and health facilities which have been requested by the Integrated Care Board. The proposal is currently being tested through the local plan examination process, with Part 1 hearings completed in November 2025 and Part 2 hearings going on at the moment. Further information, including the programme and the evidence base, is available via the Council's website. As you may well be aware, 2 planning applications have been submitted for most of the Loddon Valley Garden Village. An application covering the remaining area is anticipated to be submitted later this year. The submitted applications include a full environmental impact assessment alongside a series of additional technical studies designed to minimise the development's environmental impact. The application is currently under review by our specialist officers. Construction-related impacts, such as dust, will be managed through a construction environmental management plan. An initial plan has been submitted for both planning applications. These can be viewed on our website under references 252498 and 252769. Thank you.
Thank you. Samina, do you have a supplementary?
Yes. I have seen the mitigation measures that you have taken in the website and all. And I'm sorry to say that from my expertise, those mitigations are not going to be really practical, because I just want to know the proof about the studies. All those reports points that it is based on historical data. For a planning that is going to be existing for future, the studies should be based on impact modeling with future projection scenarios of climate change and the combined impact from all the changes that is happening, cumulative impact from all the land use changes.
Samina, do you have a question?
So I would like to know whether you have any proof anywhere that the Planning Commission has the studies based on future climate projection scenarios.
Thank you, Samima, for that very well-informed supplementary. You referred at the end, however, to planning permissions. There are no planning permissions. There are planning applications that are being assessed at present. And I am absolutely sure that assessment will involve looking at not simply historic data, but projections of future risk. That's inherent in the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. I understand Mr. Johnson is online, and he's asking a question of the Executive Councillor for Children's Services. Chris, do you want to carry on?
Can I just check? Can you hear me this time?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sorry, I've just got to go and get my question put up on the screen. So my question refers to commitments made in planning agreements with developers of new estates. Please could you give an update on progress regarding the delivery of the new primary school for Spencer's Wood?
Thank you for your question and welcome to the meeting. I'm sorry you had such difficulty with it. Capital funding for the Spencer's Wood Primary School was approved at the council meeting on the 26th of February 2026. In line with the programme, the process for appointing the consultant team commenced in early March with the intention of initiating procurement of the capital project in May 2026. This should enable construction to start in the autumn with a view to delivery of the school building in time for opening in September 2028.
Chris, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, thank you, Prue. So with the plan for occupancy being a lift and shift of an existing school, can you elaborate more on the process for deciding which school will move?
Yes, to a limited extent. There is shall I start with the timetable, as it were? So I've just announced that the consultant team is being appointed at the moment. We're looking to invite schools to show an expression of interest if they would like to be the school that moves, and that process will take place from this month until June, and then there'll be a decision made between June and September, and the process for choosing that school has gone through a group with the it's a subgroup of the Education Partnership to discuss how we should do it. We set up some criteria which I don't think have been absolutely finally signed off yet, so I won't tell you what they are, but some criteria for how we go about selecting which school is the right school to move. And there will be a number of different people sitting on the panel that makes that decision, which will include people from education, people from the council, nobody involved with the school that wants to move. So nobody, if it's a trust school, then nobody from that trust. And there should be a place for somebody from Shinfield to represent the community, probably from the parish council. So that's how we're thinking of doing it. And I hope that's explicit enough. So we should have an answer by about September, but obviously it does depend on who applies to move.
Thank you very much for the answers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question is from James Westhorpe, who is attending on Teams. Do we have James? Are you there, James?
Yes, Madam Mayor, many thanks for that.
And you've got a question of the Executive Councillor for Economic Development, Sport and Leisure. Would you like to carry on?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So my question relates to the local business in the town centre, based on Mark Ashwell's article in the Wokingham Today on the 12th of February. Firstly, I'd like to condemn any verbal abuse received by Mark or any other members of the council or public who are actually providing a public service to help improve our local community, no matter what position or views they may hold. It's unacceptable, and Mark, I'm sorry to have read that. Moving on to my question, Mark, would you be able to explain the extent of Huck's data coverage for the town centre during the study period quoted in the Wokingham Today article on the 12th of February? Whether the data set distinguishes between people walking and people remaining in vehicles, for example, those stationary in traffic queues caused by the ongoing roadworks at the time, such as on Station Road between October and January. In particular, are mobile devices inside vehicles counted in the same way as on-street pedestrians, given that congestion at peak times often exceeded the 10-minute threshold used in the statistics quoted, and could therefore artificially inflate the apparent town centre activity quoted?
Yes, thank you for your question, James, and especially for your kind comments. We've been collecting Huck data for over a year and will continue to do so. Huck's methodology is designed to provide a population-weighted picture of footfall by identifying where devices are based, assessing coverage across different areas, and then applying weighting to ensure the data reflects actual population distribution. This creates a more accurate measure of visitor numbers over time. The data, as you say, also distinguishes between visits and passing through, with a visit defined as a stay of more than 10 minutes. You are correct to highlight that traffic delays, particularly around Station Road, could affect that data. This was recognised and those areas were excluded from the data set to avoid distortion. Overall, the HUC data supports the view that our town is performing strongly against national trends. We should focus on promoting this positive story and supporting our local businesses, please. Thank you.
James, do you have a supplementary?
I do, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mark, for that update. We saw about 3 weeks ago that another store in our local town centre, Mumbai Wokingham, closed. This is becoming a more than common occurrence, unfortunately, over the past 6 months. What renewed efforts is the council taking to support local businesses beyond what you've previously commented over recent months?
Thank you for your supplementary. We've got to be realistic about retail, and the council cannot dictate how people shop. I mean, some businesses will struggle if they do not adapt. So opening a shop is an act of courage. I mean, there's no two ways about it, and we recognise that. Where we can help, we do. We support startups, we work with traders, giving businesses the best chance of success. And business has to lead. It has to lead to be taken seriously. And we have a leader right now in Wokingham Town Centre, Georgina from Antique Rose. She's chaired 2 meetings that have been supported by us and the rest of the community. And we got a new brand, James, Indie Wokingham, which is superb. So you're welcome to our next meeting. I'll copy you in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Move on to the next question then, which is from Peter Humphreys, asking a question of the Executive Council for Environment and Climate Emergency.
Good evening, Catherine. The Council's website states planned construction of the Barkham Solar Farm has been paused due to changes to the government's proposed timescales for connection to the national electricity system. Construction of Barkham Solar Farm was due to start in spring 2026, with initial connection contracted for 2027. Full connection is now scheduled for some time between 2031 and 35. The lack of certainty over export capacity and future income means it would not be responsible for the Council to enter a multi-million pounds contract and start construction at this time. Yet the budget approved last month for financial year 26-27 includes a spend of 21 million for this project. This suggests that most of the new infrastructure will lie idle for up to 9 years. As the solar farm has an expected life of 25 years, this would mean it would only operate at full capacity for 17 years. It's likely any warranties on the equipment would be invalid by the time it's brought into use. This seems to be poor use of borrowed money. Would you please explain the Council's thinking on the issue?
Absolutely, and thank you for your question, Peter. As you note, when the Council received the updated position in the National Connection queue, we made it clear we would not enter into a contract of this magnitude while such uncertainty remained, and that position has not changed. However, our commitment to delivering the Barkham Solar Farm remains strong. Officers are continuing constructive discussions with SSEN, National Grid and NESO to explore technical options, which may mean our firm connection date can be brought forwards again. We can still make an initial connection in 2027, but the risk lies in how much of that export may be constrained before the firm connection is in place, which will depend on electricity demand and grid balancing infrastructure. Just for context, SSEN's modelling currently indicates that the solar farm would still be able to export well over 95% of its capacity. To reduce the impact of potential curtailment, we are also examining how best to use more of the generated energy locally. And although these discussions are encouraging, the level of certainty required to enter into a multi-million pound construction contract has not yet been reached. The solar farm remains a key component of our climate emergency action plan, supporting emission reductions as well as wider benefits for biodiversity and active travel. However, the decision to proceed will be driven by financial metrics. Happily, the business case for the solar farm does remain strong, and current energy market volatility only reinforces the importance of improving our energy security. We are also planning to make the most of this investment by maximising the operational life of the solar farm in line with updated technology and practice, which is currently expected at 40 years. The £21 million allocated in the 26-27 capital budget is not a commitment to spend, nor does it mean that assets will be built and left unused. The capital budget is set so that the Council is ready to proceed in line with the defined approvals process for this project. If we do not receive enough clarity to enter into the build contract within this financial year, the budget will be reprofiled or removed as part of the normal annual capital programme review.
Peter, do you have a supplementary?
As ever. I mentioned 21 million. I have heard a figure of 28 million bandied around as well. But can you tell us, well, is that figure correct? And also, how long are these discussions going to go on before you make a definitive decision one way or the other?
Thank you. So the final cost package will depend on a few components. There is, of course, the construction of the solar farm itself. There's also the connection package with SSEN to connect it to the grid. So until we can enter into a construction contract, that final price remains an element of uncertainty. And that is, in fact, one of the aspects that we have to weigh up in terms of when we're considering risk. There is also a risk of not proceeding in terms of potential cost inflation, which, particularly given the international situation, is very real and potentially very significant. So we can't put a final number on it. This will, of course, be come through the cross-party project boards prior to any decision, but the approvals process remains in line with that approved at this council. I won't quote the date because I believe it was in 2022. No, maybe before that. Quite some years ago, the approvals process was defined, and that will be followed.
Thank you very much. The next question is from Helen Palmer, who I hope is on Teams, who's asking a question of the Executive Councillor for Environment and Climate Emergency. Are you there?
Hello, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you. The National Emergency Briefing was held in Westminster in November when leading experts gave a high-level briefing on the interconnected climate and nature crisis, including threats to food supply, health and national security. The audience of 1,200 included politicians and influential representatives of business, culture, faith, sport and the media. The NEB will be summarised in the form of a film called The People's Emergency Briefing to be rolled out nationally from next month. The whole UK population needs to have access to this film and take part in a post-viewing discussion. It's a national briefing calling for government, community leaders and citizens to act as in wartime, discuss strategies, build stronger community bonds and prepare to protect ourselves and one another. Locally, a group of voluntary organisations will disseminate the film beginning in May. The first screening will be by invitation only to councillors and local MPs. This will be followed by public screenings at venues around Wokingham over the summer. Given the weight of responsibility carried by councillors as leaders and educators, will the council mandate that every councillor has a duty to see the People's Emergency Briefing film and take part in the post-screening discussion?
Thank you for your question, Helen, and for your efforts to raise awareness of this really important briefing. The climate and nature crises are indeed an emergency, as has been acknowledged by this council in declaring a climate and ecological emergency. However, I think we all acknowledge that an emergency that is playing out over years and decades often slips down the societal agenda in the face of very real pressing issues that play out over days, weeks and months. In this context, events such as the National Emergency Briefing are more essential than ever. The impacts of climate change and nature breakdown are being felt in Wokingham Borough, impacting our health and future opportunities. And they will also have a serious impact on the demands for and the delivery of our council services, something we will be addressing in our upcoming climate, nature and resilience strategy, expanding the focus from climate mitigation to better work with nature and prepare for the impacts of climate change that are already being felt. So I hope all councillors will attend this screening and engage with the post-screening discussion to help keep strengthening the council's response to the climate and nature emergencies. I don't believe we can constitutionally mandate that every councillor attends, but given how passionately colleagues from across the chamber supported accelerated delivery against our net zero aims in September, I'm sure there will be a very strong take-up of your invitation. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Helen, do you have a supplementary?
No, I don't. Thank you, Catherine.
Okay, thank you very much. We move on to the next question, which is Mahima Boa's question to the Exec Councillor for Children's Services. Mahima.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is, in about 2023, there was a proposal to put 2 new special schools for children with special educational needs at Rook's Nest Farm, which is almost on the border between Barkham and Finchampstead. Can you please tell me what has happened to that proposal?
Thank you for that question. On the 11th of December 2025, the Department for Education made a national announcement regarding the Special Free Schools programme. And as part of this, the Council had to make the following choice with respect to each of those 2 schools. Either continued with the plan school scheme to be delivered by the Department for Education, or to accept a direct financial settlement of £6,480,000 per school, so as to deliver places locally, which will be paid over the course of 3 years, with the first instalment in summer 2026. At its meeting on the 26th of February 2026, the Executive decided to pursue the financial settlement option in relation to both schools. This will enable the delivery of a single new special free school at the Rook's Nest site for September 2028. The other special free school will be delivered as a refurbishment at the school site that's vacated as part of the Spencerswood Primary School scheme, which I talked about earlier in answering another question, with a target opening of September 2029. Taking the option of local delivery of both schools enables the Council to take full ownership of its SEND sufficiency strategy, with no further reliance on national delivery of the Special Free School programme, which had been subject to ongoing uncertainty and delay.
Thank you. Mahima, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor. The government has now announced its plans for special educational needs, which have a huge focus on inclusion in mainstream schools. Are you confident both that we need this special school and that it fits into the direction the government is moving in?
For that question, it is indeed true, and I hopefully will be saying something later on in the meeting in the exec statement about the thrust of the government's reforms of SEND, but however many children you include in mainstream, it's not suitable for all children, and we know we have enough children who will have sufficient needs that there will be a requirement for more special school places. We haven't made up our mind which way around. There were 2 different special schools to be built with to satisfy different needs. We haven't decided which one will come first yet, which one will be the refurbished school, which one will be the new school, but we are confident that we are predicting well, and it's worth bearing in mind that this is not just for future children, it's also existing children that we have in independent schools at the moment in very expensive placements out of borough, and hopefully we can bring some of them home and nearer to home and give them an education locally at far less expense, which would be far better for them to be closer to home. So there's more than sort of one thing. It's not just future need, it's existing need. And the final thing I'd want to say on that is that the reforms won't kick in until 2028-29. And so things will continue as they are with an emphasis on trying to get children into mainstream, but there will be no formal changes until then. So we're fairly confident that we know what we're predicting.
Thank you, Prue. Before we move on to the next question, looking at the time, I'd like to propose that the Council Procedure Rule 5.1 14.8 be suspended to allow all public questions to be heard. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you very much. We move on then. The next question on 117.8 is Roberta Brooks to ask a question of the Executive Councillor for Children's Services. Roberta.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, all. My question is, March 2nd was the National Offer Day for secondary schools, the day on which parents of children in Year 6 got told the outcome of their application for the admission to secondary schools. So my question is, what proportion of children in the borough got a place at a school that their parents had applied for?
This is feeling a bit as if I'm turning into Adrian and getting all the questions, like the novel experience. I'm glad that people are interested in this subject. So the answer is that 98% of children obtained a place at a school for which the parent expressed a preference. And I'll give you the full preference breakdown. I'll try and speak slowly so you have time to write it down. So first preference, 82%. Second preference, 11%. Third preference, 3%. And fourth preference, 2%. That leaves the 2% who did not get one of their preferences. However, they did all get a school place.
Thank you, Roberta. Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, a very quick one, thank you. And how does this compare to previous years? Thank you.
Thank you. I wondered whether you were going to ask that. I've actually got a spreadsheet, which I've got open in case I needed to know the answer. So it's very, very similar to last year. We also achieved 82% first preferences last year and 98% overall, with 2% not getting their preference. But then the numbers are slightly different in that last year it was 56 people who did not get a school they preferred. This year it's only 49. And that figure was, I think, the best we'd achieved in the last few years. Before that, we hit 97%, and the year before that, 96%, and the year before that, 94%. So I'm trying to do the maths in my head from my spreadsheet. And the numbers of first preferences have also increased over the years slightly. So we are, I think, going in the right direction. We'll never be able to give everybody their first choice school because it just doesn't work like that. But we're doing pretty well.
Thank you, Prue. The next question was to be asked by Anthony Pollock, but he's unable to attend. Rebecca, I believe you're going to ask the question. I remind you, you can't ask a supplementary.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is on behalf of Anthony Pollock. He's asked Adrian, the Executive Councillor for Active Travel, Transport and Highways, the following question. Swallowfield Bridge was recently damaged by a lorry. A temporary fix was eventually put in place, but it is far from perfect. The temporary fix has narrowed the bridge and the traffic lights put in place have failed on numerous occasions, causing significant disruption. The signage on either side of the bridge making it clear it is unsuitable for HGVs is inadequate, and as a result many HGVs have driven to the bridge and either scraped over, risking further damage, or being forced to turn around, causing further disruption to traffic. In the light of this, can you please confirm when the permanent fix will happen, and in the meantime, what you are going to do to rectify the issues with the traffic lights and signage? Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca, for asking Anthony's question. I was worried for a moment that I might fall behind Prue in the stats. Following the significant damage to Swallowfield Bridge, which removed the barrier on one side, a temporary concrete barrier has been installed to provide edge protection and ensure the safety of road users, with single-way traffic in operation. This solution was implemented after a site-specific risk assessment was carried out. As a precaution, the contractor has recently replaced the traffic lights on both sides of the bridge, as the previous lights did appear to be defective. The design for a permanent replacement parapet is underway, and this should be complete from a design point of view towards the end of April. Once the design is finalised and approved, construction planning will take place. The schedule for the permanent repair will be coordinated to avoid conflicts with other planned works on the road network as normal. So at this stage, I can't give a completion date for the bridge repair. The design work will include a further review of permanent road signage. Our current view, the officer's current view, is that there is suitable signage in place warning road users of both the 18-tonne weight limit and that the route is unsuitable for long vehicles. However, as I say, that will be reviewed.
Thank you, Adrian. The next item, 117.10, is for Leon Cook to ask a question of the Executive Councillor for Active Travel, Transport and Highways. Are you there, Leon?
I am, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Speeding on local roads such as Sonning Lane, New Bath Road and Munbury Hill across the Thames Ward remains a problem. What measures other than the Safer Streets programme is the Council looking at in terms of enforcement to ensure resident safety is prioritised?
Hello, Leon. Thank you for your question. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for acknowledging the role of the Safer Streets programme, which is likely to be the single biggest contribution we can make to improving resident safety around our roads. This specifically includes consideration of rural minor roads with only a national speed limit, such as Munbury Hill. Your question focuses on enforcement. I'm afraid that the Council has no powers to enforce against speeding or most other traffic offences. We are able to take enforcement against parking offences and some moving traffic offences where these contravene marked restrictions. We can add further such restrictions where these are necessary for safety purposes, and any member of the public can raise issues that may benefit from further restrictions by reporting a safety concern via our online form. Communities can help with their local speed watch groups, for which I know there is one in Sonning, and I saw that your local MP indeed joined them last year on a session on Sonning Lane. We have a robust and well-established process in place to review, to allow road safety concerns to be reported and considered, and this has led to recent safety improvements in Pound Lane, where I understand the speed limit away from the pedestrian crossing, and the speed limit was moved away from the pedestrian crossing. Approaches were resurfaced, and we will in future be adding 20-mile-an-hour roundels to the road. Where appropriate, any concerns raised to us that require enforcement, we would discuss with Thames Valley Police and request their assistance. I would encourage you and other members of the public to raise your concerns through our reporting system. Anyone can search online for Wokingham road safety concern, and all requests are reviewed by officers and responded to. More generally, we aspire to the principles of Vision Zero, a strategy aimed at eliminating all traffic fatalities and severe injuries. We'll be developing our approach to this as a part of our local transport plan implementation this year.
Leon, do you have a supplementary?
I do, Madam Mayor. I'll try and be laconic. I would like to commend my fellow Thamesian, Councillor Smith, who has been absolutely dialed in on this issue for a very long time. I think you've identified a problem, Adrian, which is, like all things, data and money. And I understand, obviously, the enforcement powers that you would have as the executive member and or the council are somewhat restricted. This week I spoke to the Police and Crime Commissioner, who said, well, I'm going to unveil a new forum, but I'm going to require either DFT or Home Office money for that. That could be a year or 18 months away. I spoke to the local commander, who said within the temporary speed team, the neighbourhood team, 4 or 5 different teams. So it's very stratified in terms of their ability to actually navigate around this. So I guess my question would be, what budget, if any, is available either from mainline budget money or SIL money, whereby either temporary traffic cameras, permanent infrastructure or VAS would be available? Because otherwise it is reliant upon Community Speed Watch. In Sonning, they do a great job. They come out twice a month, but there are other parts of the parishes which can't do this, and across Wokingham as well. And
Thank you, Leon. I think we've got the question.
Okay, last point, if I may, Madam Mayor.
Very quickly.
In an answer to a question I asked, I think back in October, you mentioned CrashMap. CrashMap says that there have been no incidents in 2025. That is incorrect. So my question is, how do we navigate this? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, you raise a number of points that are very real concerns. It's a good thing that car travel has become much safer through crumple zones airbags. The cloud to this silver lining is that many fewer people in collisions get injured, and by not getting injured under our historic way of recording collision data, we simply don't get the data from the police. It's a known issue. It's mentioned in the government's road safety strategy, and there are many potential avenues by which that could be improved, including AI cameras. We have some of those in the borough, but far from comprehensive, but also telematics on vehicles, which are able to tell us not just when a collision happens, but when violent braking, violent steering and so on happens. And this would very much be the safety pyramid approach employed throughout health and safety across the world, where you eliminate the near misses, you eliminate the minor incidents, and then the more serious incidents take care of themselves. That was discussed at the Thames Valley Police Road Safety Forum last year. I discussed it again with the head of roads policing in December when we met, and they are aware that we wish to pursue this as part of our Vision Zero strategy alongside many other local authorities. And I hope to meet with the new head of roads policing when she takes up her post next month to pursue this. It's probably beyond us as a local authority to do this single-handedly. It's certainly within scope for Thames Valley Police and the local authorities to do the same.
Thank you very much. That concludes the public questions. Public that are here, you're very welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but can I ask that you move up to the public gallery to continue to view the meeting? Thank you. Right, thank you very much. We move on to item 118, which is parish and town council questions. I can confirm that there's been no questions submitted by town and or parish councils. So that takes us to item 119, petitions. Does anyone wish to submit a petition? No? Okay, we'll carry on to item 120. And this is the Housing, the Resident Charter 2026-29, improving the resident experience. I would like to extend a warm welcome to Steve Bowers, Chair of the Tenant and Landlord Improvement Panel. Steve, I understand that you have a presentation.
Thank you. Do we need to turn this microphone on? Right. Can everybody hear me okay? Cool. Right. Well, thank you for inviting us along again. Excuse me, I've got a cold at the moment, so if you can't hear me, apologies. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for introducing us. We're back here today. If you notice from the charter at the moment, we've taken it from a tenant's charter to a resident's charter, and we will explain that later on down the line. I would just like to introduce, obviously, Darren. Darren Leeming is the new housing director, interim housing director. Is that your proper title, Darren?
Yes, that's Service Director for Housing, Steve.
Service Director for Housing, there you go. And Darren is, yeah. Darren is he's coming in and he's steadying the ship, as it were. He is a very experienced man. He's shown his support with the tenants to come along and be, or residents, I should call ourselves, to be with us tonight. We appreciate him being up front with us because it shows how we work in partnership with everybody, and that's what we deem to do all the way down the line. So what I'm going to do at the moment, you've all got a copy of the charter in front of you. Kim is going to do a presentation. Before she gets to that, I would just like to say a few thank yous to people, if I may, before I get to the end. None of this work that I do, we all do, will be able to do that without our involved tenants. We're getting a reduced bunch now. There's not many of us around, so we're trying to get people to come on board with us. So, yeah, but there's a few of us and we still can do it. But we wouldn't be able to do the work we do without two major people in that system. One of them is Kim. Kim supports me ably. As you know, I'm visually impaired or blind. She adapts everything for me so I can read it and is a permanent challenge for her. The other person who's sitting in the public gallery is a lady called Hannah Lee. She's sort of Kim's sidekick. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without those two officers. Those officers always go above and beyond what we need to do. I ask them some really tough stuff and they always come back with answers and resolve it for me and all this sort of stuff. So we move on to, I've mentioned Darren. Darren's going to be a big part of the team. He's going to be fundamental in what we do. And I do very much appreciate him being up front with us today, because it shows his support for us, and I do appreciate that. We've got Susan, Sally, Matt, Pope. We've got all those sorts of people that are in line with housing now. I have access to all those people if I need them. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And when I get on the phone, they know there's a reason why I've got on the phone. And they answer the questions and get back to the answers with me. So I appreciate what we do in housing. Housing, for me, it goes unnoticed. We sit under the radar, we do our job, we get on with it, and we look after the nearly 3,000 houses that Wokingham have. We don't blow our trumpet enough. I'm lucky enough to chair the steering group for Gorse Ride. We're doing a major project over there, and it goes under the radar. You guys you started it all off, you're all there, you're in amongst it all, you know, especially Rebecca, Charles, Peter, you're all up there with us, Stephen, Prue, we're all working in this together. So what we've got to do is just push that project through. It is coming on in leaps and bounds, and that is due to everybody working together. I don't give a rat's about, excuse my language, what political party you are. I will work with everybody and anybody to get housing on the radar, to get housing through for social housing, through for people that need that work, need those houses. And you should see the significant change it's made in that community down there. We like to call it a community. We don't call it an estate, because an estate brings all sorts of connotations to us. We want to call it a community, and I'm desperately trying to fight to get that community back together. We have 45 houses built down there now, and people are living in them houses. We have 2 apartment blocks, one fully filled with social tenants, and part rent, part buy. Last I heard, there was 9 sold out of over 20. So we're getting there, but we need to push that project through, because it is going to be it's the flagship of what this council does, and we do need to publicise that. I know Stephen and the other guys. Stephen, I can't speak highly enough of this man. He supports housing. I give him no amount of stick, and he still comes back at me. But his heart is in social housing, as is Rebecca's, as is everybody's. Marie-Louise, Jane, all these people that sit on. We've now transformed our name from the Tenant and Landlord Improvement Panel to HIP, the Housing, what is it called? Housing Innovation Panel. I don't even know the name of my own panel. What's that all about? We were considering to call it WHIP, but we figured coming into this place, you guys wouldn't want to see the whip anyway. So we thought that was, and we were going to call it RAP. And then I think it was Rebecca popped up, or Marie-Louise popped up and said, that's drug paraphernalia. What do you want to do that for? So we didn't go down that route, but that is what it is. And it's a housing. It was actually Sally's idea. I blame Sally for it. So is HIP is who we are now. Anyway, I'm going to stop, because I want some time for questions if you've got any later on. Kim, please, would you do your presentation if you wouldn't mind?
Thank you, Steve. This presentation is from the resident volunteers. I'm very proud to be here to represent them this evening. As you can see from your new resident charter, which is in front of you, there are 5 new aspirations, but the charter is more than a document. It's a shared commitment to continuous improvement and meaningful engagement. So, what's changed? What's different? From 10 aspirations to 5. What the residents did was they prioritised those aspirations that mean the most to everyone. The language changing from tenant charter to the resident charter. So in the words of our residents, the decision to move from the term tenant to resident reflects our ambition to be more inclusive and representative of everyone who calls Woking and Borough Council property their home. While tenant traditionally refers only to those with a tenancy agreement, resident encompasses a wider community, including leaseholders, shared owners, and family members living in our homes. By adopting this term, we recognise that the quality of our services, communication and engagement should benefit all who live in our properties, not just those named on legal agreements. This change also supports our goal of fostering a stronger sense of belonging and shared responsibility. The word resident places the focus on the home and community, rather than just the contractual relationship. It reflects our understanding that where you live is more than bricks and mortar. It is the foundation for well-being, safety, and connection with your neighbourhood. By making this change, we aim to ensure that every individual feels acknowledged, valued, and empowered to have a voice in shaping the services and communities we share. This resident charter is a statement of our commitment, setting out clearly what you can expect from us, and how we will work together with Woking and Borough, a place where everyone feels truly at home. So, for the first time this year, and for the first time ever with the Charter, we've had a huge amount of engagement before we've come here to the Council. For the first time, health and safety, the climate emergency team, children's services, finance, public health, place and growth, the ethnically diverse staff network, adult social care, and the engagement, participation and partnership cross-service strategic working group have been involved in actually the fruition of this document. So, Resident Charter as a document is a reflecting partnership working by using the Council's values, ambitious, caring and together, reflected in the colouring of the document and our presentation today. And as resident volunteers, we have also changed. We have grown in confidence because you continue to listen to us and work in partnership with us. And talking of the voice of the resident, we wanted to share some examples of stigma that residents have shared with us and why we continue to work on the aspiration of removing stigma in all its forms. And by working in partnership with Woking and Borough Council, we know that one day we will all achieve this together. So this incident happened before COVID, but one Monday, a council contractor arrived at our sheltered home, and I overheard one of the crew refer to it as an old people's home. I quickly corrected that misconception, but similarly, organisations sometimes assume that older residents automatically require charitable support, such as food parcels at Christmas. Now, from my perspective, these gestures, while perhaps well-intentioned, can feel stigmatising. Why not organise a visit and ask us if there's anything that we need? We then have the choice. The second person said, well, first of all, I feel that we should be grateful to have been given a place in social housing, whatever the circumstances. The stigma, the negative perception of council residents comes from ignorance and should be seen as such. Personally, I choose to ignore those comments and not let them affect me. Too often, the media fuels these views by highlighting a few cases of tenants misbehaving, but that's not representative of the majority of us. And finally, hello, one thought. When television talk about a successful person who happened to live in council housing, they always talk about it as if no one who lives in social housing can be successful. They also suggest that success is moving out of social housing and buying a property. Success is different for all of us. Never assume we are all the same. So what are we doing in the community? As a council, we are ambitious about the way we work with residents, neighbourhoods and communities by changing the language we use, moving from tenants to residents, from voids to homes, and from estates to communities, we are shifting the narrative to one that reflects dignity, pride, and belonging. The launch of the new resident charter today, building on the success of the tenant charter, is a key milestone. One of the central aspirations is tackling stigma, showing that together we can create places where everyone feels valued and respected. We are committed to caring for our communities by standing shoulder to shoulder with our residents. Through partnership working with colleagues, suppliers and residents themselves, we can fight stigma, celebrate diversity and recognise that while every resident is unique, we all share the same right to safe, thriving and welcoming homes. Together, we are not only challenging old perceptions, we are building to stronger, more inclusive communities where everyone belongs. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both. Very impassioned at the end there, so you obviously feel very strongly about it. David Hare, I believe you wished to say something.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to thank you, first of all, for your passion and for helping us to see the importance of social housing as part of our community. Not a separate part of our community, but an integral part of our community, which means so much. And I have a personal thing coming from adult care, and that is a month ago, I met someone who was in the army, is now in a wheelchair, and he helped design his house, which is a social care house. He helped design his house so that it's appropriate for him. And personally, that because it almost moved me to tears, because I thought how important that is for him. And he knew that he had that house as he wanted it. And that, I think, is a great reflection of all the work that you do, but all the work that the officers do as well, so that we can build up a positive stigma, not a negative stigma, but a positive stigma. We are all together working for the good of everyone in Woking.
Thank you, David. Stephen, you had a comment as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm actually going to, in a few minutes, when everybody else has made their comments or asked their questions, going to propose the recommendations. But before I do that, if I can just take this opportunity to say a few words. Steve is, of course, right. He's right about almost everything. Not everything, but almost everything. And he is certainly right that he gives me a lot of stick. And he's certainly right that I come back asking for more, even though he does give me all that stick. But working with him is an enormous privilege. He is a fantastic chair of what we now call HIP, what we used to call TLIP. He is truly impressive. He's inclusive in his chairing. He enables everyone to have a say and play a role. And he is an inspirational character. I really mean that. Kim is inspirational too, and her presentation was quite fantastic, and I really did enjoy it. It was from the heart, and I think reflects the passion we all feel, I hope we all feel, for the delivery of affordable housing and for ensuring we have a really high quality housing service. A considerable amount of work has gone into the Charter, and I want to extend my thanks to everyone who's been involved in that work. The change of title from tenant charter to resident charter reflects, as Kim has said, our desire to destigmatise residents who live in properties owned by the council. They are residents, just like any other residents, with the same aspirations, the same hopes, and the same fears for themselves and their families. Working with resident volunteers in what was TLIP and is now HIP is one of the most pleasurable parts of being the portfolio holder for affordable housing. It would be hard to imagine, I think, a more committed and determined body of people. And by that I mean the resident volunteers, the officers and the councillors of all parties who are working together in a productive partnership of equals focused on ensuring that we have the best possible housing service. We are, if I may say it, and this is going to be a bit cringeworthy, joined at the hip. I told you it was going to be cringeworthy. May I also say how much I support all Steve's comments on Gorse Ride, which is indeed our flagship project in affordable housing, and I am very determined we will see it through. And I want to add, if I may, just finally, an endorsement of what Steve said about Darren, who is already playing a key role, even though he's only been with us for a few weeks. So thank you, Darren.
Thank you very much. Who wants to say something?
Thank you. I think I'm going to be seconding this when Stephen actually proposed it, but I wanted to speak on it first, really, because before I became the exec member for Children's Services, for very many years I was the Lib Dem councillor who sat on TLIP, which was the Tenant Landlord Improvement Panel, which has now been renamed HIP, the Housing Innovation Partnership. So my memory goes back a very long way, well before the first incarnation of the Charter, which was, I think, in 2019, back to the bad old days before 2012, when half the rent we collected locally was taken by the government to support other areas. I don't know why that sounds familiar. And all we could do was just about keep our houses wind and watertight. And back then, the finances meant there was a huge incentive for local authorities to hive their council housing off to a housing association. And our residents voted against that. They preferred to stick with us as a council, and I hope they have never had cause to regret that. That's because regardless of who has been in power in the council, there has always been cross-party support for the principle of social housing, which is actually quite a remarkable thing when you think about all the political differences that there are between us. But we all recognise how important it is in an area of high housing costs for there to be as many decent quality affordable homes as possible for people to live in. That was true before we started the journey to become a marmot place, and it is even truer now. And we also recognise our responsibility to work in partnership with the people who live in those homes, to ensure that their needs are met and that they have the power to influence the decisions that affect them. And a good example of that was what David said about the gentleman who's helped to design his own house. The Charter that we are being asked to endorse tonight is a manifestation of that commitment. And this is the third iteration of the Charter, and there's one priority in particular that I want to talk about, and that's something that has been a theme for the whole time I've been a councillor: tackling stigma. And it's both infuriating and saddening that the rhetoric of the past 45 years has led to an ingrained belief in some parts of society that somehow there is something wrong with living in social housing. So I'm going to urge everyone to take note of that and the other unfair perceptions that the Charter draws attention to, and ask us all to resolve to do our bit to overcome them, including by using language that cares. So I'd like to thank and congratulate everyone who was involved in producing the updated Charter, residents and officers, and look forward to us continuing to work together on the aspirations within it. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Did anybody else want to say something, Rebecca?
Firstly, I'd like to echo the words and a big thank you to Steve. I cast him a friend. We've known each other for years, and he really is an exceptional member of our community in Finch Hampstead. And the work that he does and continues to do will be a legacy to him for years to come. And I think all members in this room should be very proud of themselves, because Gorse Ride, the project down there, has been going on for years. And as you clearly said, it was cross-party. There's a lot of people here that are no longer here that are responsible for getting that project started. And we should all be extremely proud of ourselves, because it is the transformation down there is unbelievable, and the impact it's having on everyday people is huge. So I just wanted to say thank you. I did want to ask you a question. Can I ask my question now as well? Steve, you will have learnt a lot of lessons so far on this project. What are you going to really take forward? Because hopefully there will be more of these projects across the borough. And we will see more benefit for people, not just in Finch Hampstead, across the whole area. So what big key lessons have you learnt to take forward?
Thank you for the question, Rebecca. Yeah, the fundamental question for me is get the people involved early, get the residents, whoever the project's going to involve, get them involved in early, develop the partnership that should be there and wants to be there. That is how we get things done. I had tea with the local vicar the other day. That shows you what it's just, yeah, I'm up there now. But it just shows you that the extent that you have to, a big part of what I do, and you guys know, because I talk to a lot of you, is about partnership. It's about working in partnership, so we all know what each other's doing. And that is the biggest part that you can do on a project, is actually get involved with it, actually get down to the nitty gritty, get the residents involved, be a partnership with them. Don't tell them what you're going to do, ask them and be a part of it. Don't just go in there and say, well, we're going to do this, get them involved. Please, I can't emphasise that enough. And that's what's worked down at Gorse Ride. I've been involved with it for, I don't know, 11 years or something now. And that's where it all started from. And that's because they asked us what we wanted. We wouldn't have half as many parking spaces down in Gorse Ride if the residents didn't say, we want parking. The charging points, bin cupboards, they asked the residents what would they want. They want bin cupboards, so they don't want dustbins making the place look a mess. So they've got bin cupboards, and they put their bins in the store now. There's no rubbish down there. There's nothing. You know, it's brilliant. But they listened to that, and you know, it's just that. You know, you've got some great officers working down there. One of the fundamental ones is Neil Jones. He runs that organisation. He runs that place like you wouldn't believe. And if you want to know anything, he's your man. Go down and see Neil. Neil will tell you. Darren done a walkabout with him the other day. And but it's about partnership working. And I know Stephen and I bang on about it for eternity, about partnership working. I'm very fortunate that I work with you guys, and you guys have got to be commended, because you guys stick your head above the parapet. I don't. I'm not on social media. I don't want to be on social media. But some of you guys get dogs abuse on there, and it's not right. You shouldn't. You're doing something for the blinking community. Why do you do that? Why do they do that? I don't understand it myself. I can contact whoever I want to. I can go to the partnerships, Kim, Hannah, Darren, Sally, whoever. But that's how partnerships work, and you've got to give and take. You can't have everything your own way. Give and take. Sorry, Rebecca, I banged on. I go on a bit.
Thank you, Stephen. Wise words. I'd almost forgotten, but we've actually got the charter that we do need to, the report we need to propose. Oh, sorry. You crept in there, Pauline. Do you want to say?
Sorry, I wasn't actually intending to speak, but I'd just like to thank Steve for all his hard work. And also, Kim said something that I think was really important. I mean, I was born and brought up in a housing estate, a council housing estate. The community there was fantastic. Nobody had very much, but they all helped each other. And I think not having any stigma about housing people that are born and brought up and live in council housing is really important, because everybody is all the same. We've all got the same weaknesses, we've all got the same strengths, and there's nothing different about people who are brought up in council housing.
Thank you. Thank you, Pauline. Anybody else? Have I missed anybody? Adrian.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to say that I went to some of the meetings to flesh out this charter, and one or two people said to me, what's the point in having a charter? Charter's meaningless. It's nothing. But I completely disagree. And when you listen to people like Steve and Kim, and you understand all the actions that follow the Charter, then you can start to appreciate the difference it makes to normal people's lives. So I'd like to thank Steve for his incredible service, thank Kim for her incredible service, and also, I don't know, Steve, if you looked yourself in the mirror, but you look incredibly smart today. And 6 years... That was a joke. But you look younger than you did 6 years ago. So I welcome that you've agreed to do another 20 years of charge of HIP.
Thank you very much. We're running out of time fast, and I really want the report to be proposed. So can I move to Stephen to propose the report?
You may.
Do you have a seconder? Thank you.
I do have a seconder. Yes, that's Prue. So I would like to ask colleagues to endorse the recommendation on page 37 of your agenda. There are two actions to note the new aspirations outlined in the Residents' Charter. I won't read the rest. And to agree that Woking Borough Council's progress in terms of addressing this charter is formally reported to full council each year, monitored through overview and scrutiny, and a full review completed every 3 years. So I would like to ask all colleagues across the chamber to support those recommendations. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So those recommendations you've seen, could I ask for all those in favour, please show? I think that's nobody against, but is any against? Any abstentions? That's carried, thank you. Stephen, did you want to continue, or that was it?
Well, I would love to continue, but I think I've already had one bite of the cherry. To have a second would be perhaps excessive.
Okay. Could I ask then if any member wishes to speak against the report? No. If that's the case, then we can move to that vote. I think we've just voted it, sorry.
121.
Got it. I was determined not to make any errors this evening, failed. Okay. Right, deep breath. I've just been reminded, Steve and associates, thank you very much. I don't know if you want to stay for the rest of the meeting. You are more than welcome. Thank you very much. Okay, so we move on then to item 121, which is Councillor Learning and Development Strategy 2026-29. Imogen, I believe you're proposing the report. Do you have a seconder, please?
I do indeed.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to the report, Imogen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay. I think we can all agree that it is beneficial to councillors to learn about how different areas of the council work in order to best support our residents. This development strategy needs to be of benefit to both new councillors and those of us who have been here for many years. Even those of us who have been here a long time need to be reminded of what is required of us, what is available, and have our skill sets updated in order to be effective as councillors. This strategy has been put together with the help of the Cross-Party Learning and Development Strategy Working Group, and it aims to provide a range of development opportunities in line with our community vision. Council engagement is vital to ensuring that everyone in our community has the opportunity to thrive, as the community vision sets out. But by equipping councillors with the skills, knowledge and behaviours needed for effective leadership, this helps deliver the council's ambitions for a borough that is fair, green, safe and connected. Our councillors are representatives of our residents and come with a diverse range of experience. We recognise this diversity as it is a strength, and it's aimed to bring it together to resource for supporting all of our residents. Equality, diversity and inclusion is a vital part of this. In order to understand the residents that we serve as councillors, we need to remember and embody the Nolan principles of public life, with selflessness, integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness, honesty and leadership in everything we do. This document outlines the mandatory training that all councillors must complete, evaluation and continuous improvement, success indicators, oversight and resources. It asks us to make use of the councillor SharePoint areas and maximise the use of what the Local Government Association offers. All councils across the country are facing financial pressures, and Wokingham Borough Council is no different. This strategy is about making the best use of the funds that we have put aside for councillor training, as well as other resources, and ensures that we are providing content suitable for all councillors. Going forward, councillor development will be monitored by the cross-party working group for its engagement and effectiveness, and I'm sure that it will work in providing feedback on our needs. I do hope that all councillors here this evening will support this report and its ambitions, and we can then move forward with more details where needed. And I believe we need to agree the learning and development strategy and agree that the cross-party council learning and development working group monitors and implementation of the effectiveness of the strategy and the reports annually to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Imogen. Can I ask then if there's any councillor wishing to speak against the report? No, so we need to agree those two items that Imogen has just said. Can we move to a vote, please? All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Anybody against? Anybody abstaining? No, thank you very much. That's carried. We then move on to item 122, which is the procedural report, Wokingham Special Free Schools Options Appraisal. Prue, I understand you're proposing this.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Do you have a seconder? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a slightly unusual item. For the past 4 years as an administration, we have prided ourselves on developing the role of overview and scrutiny, and in particular in giving opportunities for the various overview and scrutiny committees to contribute towards policy development. This has been a noticeable change in practice compared to what happened under the previous Conservative administration, where no such opportunities were provided. Under that administration, all overview and scrutiny did was scrutiny, with no overview. And as a result, call-ins were a regular feature, born out of our frustration, not just at the lack of ability to contribute, but at what we believed were poor quality decisions. We have not had a call-in for some time. In fact, I can't actually remember when the last time was. And this is, I believe, primarily due to our engaging with overview and scrutiny in order to give them a chance to influence policy. It could also be a result of the fact we are making decisions which are less flawed, of course. I notice there haven't been any member questions at Executive for a while either, which supports the idea that perhaps the Conservatives have found less to criticise. So, given all that, how have we ended up with a decision on the free schools, which I now have to report on here because it bypassed overview and scrutiny altogether and was not even allowed to be called in? And the answer is not that we were trying to steamroller the decision through. It's simply that in December, the government presented us with what was effectively an ultimatum, requiring a decision on a significant part of our plans to improve SEND sufficiency, with a figure attached to it of well over 10 million, with a time limit of the end of February by which we had to make that decision. So looking at the options and working out the best course of action took some weeks. Because the proposed decision was to take the money, to follow the correct governance, we had to take it through Executive because this was a change to the original Executive decision to have the 2 free schools. We also had to lever the change into the budget. So the combination of the time required to do the work, the deadline for the response and the deadline for the budget meant taking it through Executive in February. There simply was not the time or opportunity to go to overview and scrutiny in advance of the decision, and the 5 days that we would have had to needed to wait afterwards to see if it was to be called in would have taken us past the deadline to apply to the government. So a call-in could not be allowed, and hopefully that explains it.
Thank you, Prue. Could I ask if anybody wishes to speak against the report? No, oh, yes, Pauline.
I don't want to speak against it, but I'm a bit confused about the comments about call-ins. We haven't tried to call this item in.
So that's a comment, so I don't know where we go with that, but is there anybody that wants to speak against the report? No.
To reply to that.
Yes, by all means.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. You didn't try to call in, but you wouldn't have been able to call it in anyway because we had to stop it. So that's a kind. I don't really understand the comment. I think I said when we made the decision that I hope nobody would want to call it in, but it just could not be allowed. So I'm grateful if you're saying that you didn't want to call it in. That's helpful.
Thank you. I think I got that. Right. Can I see all those people in favour of the report? Show. Thank you. Anybody against? And any abstentions? No, that's carried. Thank you very much. We move on then to item 123, which is the annual report of the Standards Committee. Councillor Beth Rowland is unable to attend tonight, and I believe, Caroline, you're presenting the report. Do you have a seconder?
Yes, I do. Rochelle.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm reading this on behalf of Beth, and I hope she gets to feel better soon. I'm pleased to present the annual report of the Standards Committee 2025-26. The main aim of the Standards Committee to promote and maintain the highest standards of conduct by elected members representing the borough, town and parish councils. Maintaining ethical standards is the first principle of the council's local code of corporate governance. Local government impact on the lives of residents every day, providing essential services to those it serves. High standards are required from all elected members in order to demonstrate that key decisions are taken in the public interest and to maintain public confidence in elected members and officers. Doing things in the right way in the public interest is a critical part of public confidence in the bodies that operate on the public's behalf and supports the delivery of essential public services. Councillor conduct is underpinned by ethical standards summarised in the 7 principles of public life, also known as the Nolan Principles: selfishness, integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness, honesty and leadership. These principles are the basis of ethical standards expected of public office holders. The Borough Council's Code of Conduct specifically references these principles as a foundation to the expectations elected representatives conduct. The Standards Committee met 3 times during the year and focused on ensuring that the Borough Council's policies, as set out in the Council's Code of Conduct, were up to date, understood and underpinned by best practice. Bear in mind the significant ongoing challenges facing the Borough, Town and Parish Councils over the year. I'm pleased to report that the volume of Code of Conduct complaints activity in 2025-26, 12 complaints, remained at a relatively low level and compared favourably with 2024-25, 12 complaints, with only one 2024 complaint resulting in finding of a breach. The work of the Standards Committee is supported by 3 independent persons, Jan Cameron, Terry Ellison and Paddy Haycox, who, as the name suggests, provide an independent perspective to the Borough Council's monitoring officer in relation to the Code of Conduct complaints and support hearing panels. I'm grateful for their work through the year. Finally, I would like to record my thanks to the Borough, Town and Parish Councillors and the officers who contribute to the work of the committee during the year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caroline. Could I ask if any councillor wishes to speak against the report? No, in that case, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Anybody against? No. Anybody abstaining? No, that's carried. Thank you very much. Now move on to item 124, which is the annual report of the Audit Committee. I understand Rachel Burgess, looking the wrong Rachel there, is proposing the report. Do you have a seconder, Rachel? Thank you very much. Would you like to carry on?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Audit Committee has had a productive year overseeing the Council's governance arrangements, gaining assurance on internal control and effective risk management, and overseeing the work of internal and external audit. The Audit Committee has, however, continued to face challenges, like most Council audit committees, due to the local government audit backlog and complying with the government's so-called backstop arrangements. During the year, the external auditors KPMG provided regular updates on their work to build back assurance from previous years, and the signed audited accounts for 24-25 were published by the backstop deadline of 27th of February. The audit opinion on those accounts was qualified rather than disclaimed as it had been previously. Over 180 UK councils continue to have disclaimed audit opinions, so WBC is in a relatively positive place, and the Audit Committee have reasonable assurance and confidence that the Council can move from this to full assurance for 25-26. Members of the committee continue to contribute in an objective and non-political manner, providing thoughtful and constructive discussion in order to gain assurance and to support the highest standards of governance. The committee continues to be very fortunate to have 2 members of the public serve on the committee, as is best practice, both of whom provide an excellent contribution to the committee, as well as reinforcing our independence. Our work is well supported by several officers, including regular attendance by the Chief Executive. Their regular engagement ensures that we have the assurance needed to fulfil our responsibilities effectively. We are committed to continuous improvement and welcome feedback from members of the public, elected members and other stakeholders in order to improve our impact. Finally, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to the officers who have supported the committee so well this year, to both internal and external auditors, and to the members of the committee for their commitment and their valuable contributions. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Does anybody wish to speak against the report? No, so we'll move to the vote. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Those against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you very much. We're now on to item 125, which is the annual report of the Overview and Scrutiny Committees. I understand, Catherine Glover, you're proposing a support. Do you have a seconder, please?
Yes, I do. It's Councillor Gray.
Andrew, thank you. Would you like to carry on, Catherine?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This morning, my hairdresser said that politicians of all parties should get together and solve problems. I told her that at least on Wokingham Borough Council, that is what we do at Overview and Scrutiny meetings. This year has seen the Council and the Borough continue to face numerous challenges, on top of which the government threw the so-called Fairer Funding Review. It was against this backdrop that the cross-party Overview and Scrutiny Committees went about their work this year. The annual reports for 2025-26 demonstrate a wide range of issues considered during the year, the variety of recommendations made to the Executive, and the positive outcomes for residents across the borough. We continued to make more of an effort on the overview side of our remit, helping to develop policies and strategies by providing input at an earlier stage in their evolution and avoiding them being called in at a late stage. Highlights have included the ONS Management Committee continued its 6-monthly discussions with the Leader and Chief Executive, its quarterly monitoring of key performance indicators, and among many other items, it looked at 2 iterations of the draft advertising policy at meetings which were attended by several interested residents, after which its recommendations were accepted by the Executive. Children's Services Overview and Scrutiny continued to closely monitor schools, in particular engaging with Oakbank and monitoring that school's improvement plan. And it has given a voice to young people in the borough by welcoming the Send Youth Council to its meeting. Climate Emergency Overview and Scrutiny has again looked at key elements of the evolving Climate Emergency Action Plan, testing assumptions and progress against the targets in all key priority areas, including transport, retrofitting of homes with energy efficient technology, and renewable energy development. Community and corporate overview and scrutiny made a monumental effort to scrutinise the proposed medium-term financial plan in detail for the 7th year running, adding transparency to the budget setting process, as well as looking at many key council services, such as highways, grounds maintenance, and the council's housing companies. The Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee has gained and shared understanding of the borough's key health and social care services, with many highlights, too numerous to mention, but the work of the committee continues to ensure that residents' needs are taken into account during the commissioning and delivery of local health and social care services. I would like to thank the councillors, officers, residents, community groups and external experts who have contributed their time, effort and insights to Woking Borough Council's overview and scrutiny during the year.
Thank you, Catherine. Does any councillor wish to speak against the report? No? Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour, please show. Anybody against? Any abstentions? No, that's carried. Thank you very much. Well done, Catherine. That was exactly 3 minutes, I believe. You've been practising. Item 126, the annual report of outside bodies. Stephen Conway, I believe you're proposing a report. Do you have a seconder, please? Through.
I
Thank
do.
you.
I don't think I'll be keeping us for the full 3 minutes on this, but I want to remind colleagues that there's a lot to read in here. We had 29 reports ranging alphabetically from Age Concerned Twyford District to the Woodley Volunteer Centre. Now, some of these are from legacy bodies created on the demise of the old Berkshire County Council. Some of them are collaborative institutions bringing together councils, either regionally or nationally, but many testify to the enormous range of voluntary and charitable endeavour in the borough. And we are incredibly lucky to have so many active and participatory voluntary and charitable sector organisations in our borough. They play an immensely important role. Bodies such as the Polehampton Charity, Citizens Advice Wokingham, the Finch Hampstead Baptist Church Advisory Board, Keep Mobile, the Sonningham District Welfare and Education Trust, and the Wokingham Volunteer Centre. That's not an exhaustive list, those are just illustrations. They all play a vital role in the local community, and they deserve our thanks for that work. I'd also like to thank the council's representatives, drawn from councillors of all parties, the Liberal Democrats, Labour and the Conservatives, for submitting their reports and for attending meetings of the outside bodies over the last year. It's worth noting that this is in addition to the other responsibilities all councillors have, representing their wards, attending committee meetings, and in some cases, of course, if they're executive members, also playing a key role on a day-to-day basis in helping to run the council. But the key thing here is that we've got a good set of reports. I can't remember an occasion when we've actually had a full set of reports before, so it's very gratifying to see that is the case this time. We're asked to note the reports and I commend them to council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Stephen. Does any councillor wish to speak against the reports? No? Okay, we'll go to the vote then. All those in favour, please show. Anybody against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you very much. On to item 127, which is councillor question time. Councillors are reminded that supplementary questions must either relate to the original questions or the response that is given to that question and must be no longer than 1 minute. Executive councillors are reminded that responses to questions must be no longer than 2 minutes, and these will be timed. We have 11 councillor questions. Councillor Bello, please will you put your question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've been waiting to ask this question for some time, so I'm very glad to be able to address the council and ask this question. Can I ask the lead councillor for active travel, transport and highways, what Wokingham Borough Council can do to address poor road safety and speeding car drivers, which are causing dangerous incidents in my community with near misses and accidents in Woodley?
Greg, thank you for asking about this. Safety on and around our roads for everybody is a priority for this administration. We are in step with the government on this, whose new road safety strategy sets a target to cut road deaths and serious injuries by 65% by 2035. This is a good target on the route to a vision for zero deaths and serious injuries in time. As I mentioned earlier this evening, the Council can influence safety through measures such as setting safe speed limits, safety-related parking restrictions, signage, and providing safe routes for those more vulnerable using the roads, amongst other things. Anyone can report a road safety concern via our online form. Every report is investigated and responded to, and action taken based on need and deliverability. The Council reviews all personal injury incidents annually to identify trends or patterns that can be solved through engineering measures. We want to extend this to include information on near misses and non-injury incidents, as I said earlier on, to follow a pyramid safety approach, working with Thames Valley Police on this. In the last year, in Woodley, the Council has installed one new pedestrian crossing, undertaken a detailed review of 2 other locations in response to such concerns. The 20-mile-an-hour limit on short sections of the Woodley to Reading walking and cycling scheme is another example of prioritising the safety of vulnerable road users. This year, we'll be updating our own road safety strategy, including adopting the Vision Zero principles. Safe speeds are an important part of this, and we've already adopted a new speed limits policy, and our Safer Streets project focuses on safety for vulnerable road users. Enforcement of most motoring offences, and indeed dangerous cycling, is a matter for the police. Anyone can report road safety concerns also to the police via their non-urgent or 101 services. Community Speed Watch is also a valuable asset in this, and I know you're already involved in this in Woodley. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I have, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Adrian, for your excellent answer. My supplementary is, what can the Council do to increase effective partnership working with Thames Valley Police, specifically to strengthen road safety across Woodley and our whole borough?
Thank you. Working with our local police force is really important in terms of this, primarily for the reasons that we control a number of factors on the roads, but enforcement needs to be a part of that, and that's primarily their responsibility. I think Leon Cook earlier mentioned a few aspects of what Thames Valley Police are hoping to do, and certainly they seem to be upping their game on this issue, although resources will always limit them, as they do most parts of the public sector. We met for the first time, I think, for many years with the head of roads policing in December, as I said. I want that to be a continuing dialogue alongside the road safety partnership meetings chaired by the PCC. I think there is a lot more we can do in this area, particularly around data. As I said earlier on, TVP are making improvements to how they provide data, essentially digitising what traffic policemen do. We provide a service on behalf of a number of local authorities, helping to put that data into our safety databases, and I hope that we can do a lot more with that in the future. As far as Speedwatch is concerned, You raise an interesting question. The relationship from Speedwatch is primarily with the local police, but I will look into how the council may play a role in helping with that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excuse me, next question is from Martine to the Executive Councillor for Active Travel, Transport and Highways.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is for the Executive Member of Active Travel, Transport and Highways. In January 2026, Woking Borough Council adopted a new speed limit policy that sets out a proactive, evidence-led approach to make our roads safer. The evidence is clear: lower speed limits make roads safer for everyone. How can town and parish councils collaborate with Woking Borough Councils to identify roads in their area that could benefit from introducing safer speed limits?
Thank you, Martine. The Safer Streets programme, developed following the adoption of our speed limit policy earlier this year, commenced at the start of March with a briefing to town and parish council representatives at the local collaboration group meeting, followed by a formal invitation to every parish to comment via a dedicated parishes section of the council's Engage platform. We followed this up with an online Q&A last week to answer questions from parish representatives, and I'm pleased to say that many parishes are enthusiastic about the opportunity. In parallel, and at the request of parishes, we created a separate opportunity for members of the public to make proposals. We will review public proposals alongside parish proposals and talk to parishes as a part of that process. The consultation is open till the end of May, when all submissions will be considered against an assessment framework and an initial tranche of schemes identified and progressed to a public consultation. I would encourage anyone with an interest in this to visit the Engage platform and submit their thoughts.
Thank you. Martine, do you have a supplementary?
I do. You mentioned that there's also a parallel consultation with the public, in which the public can contribute. Would you be able to explain how the information from these two activities will be combined?
Yeah, thank you. Happy to expand on that. We see parishes having a credible overview of the most important issues in their area, and one of the objectives from what we're doing at the moment is to identify priorities. There are a lot of opportunities for us to make changes in rural minor roads and urban areas, but we can't do it all at once. So we want to identify areas that will deliver the most benefit, that will be supported by the public, and we think parishes can significantly help us with that. However, they don't have a universal view. Parishes were keen that we went out to the public, and as I said, we will look to merge those proposals. Some will be cross-parish boundary inevitably, but we'll look to merge those proposals and then continue to work closely with parishes. I'm confident we will get some very good results from that. Yesterday I met with Shinfield Parish Council on these sorts of issues, and they had some very good ideas for how a broader approach could be taken to road safety and indeed speed limits in the Shinfield Parish area. And if we get the same sort of engagement from most of the other parishes, then I think we'll be able to make a very significant difference to improve road safety and to benefit the public in general, whether they drive, cycle, walk, or however they travel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question is from Chetna.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The question is, in February 2026, a falling tree struck an electricity pylon supporting cables over M4, resulting in closure of the motorway and Hatch Farm Lane. So my question is, please could you explain what action was taken at the time in response to the emergency?
Lou, I believe you're answering this one.
I am, yes. Thanks for your question, Chetna. So the highways and emergency planning teams were alerted on the morning of Wednesday, the 18th of February, to the issue and worked closely with Scottish and Southern Electricity Network throughout the day.
As SSEN were the lead responding agency and are legislated as a Category 2 responder under the Civil Contingencies Act, they led the response. The Council's role was to support them and to support our residents as required. So, for example, the emergency planning team chaired a multi-agency meeting to ensure wider emergency response partner awareness, including the blue light services and national highways. SSEN opted to take a precautionary approach to offer alternative accommodation to a small number of households whose access would be restricted by the engineering works required, and therefore we worked with the relevant housing and adult social care teams to understand if there were any specific needs or vulnerabilities for affected residents so that we or SSEN could provide additional support if needed, including maintaining access for carers. The communication team shared the SSEN information on social media to amplify their messaging and to inform the public about the continued road network disruption. The dismantling of the pylon overnight by the SSEN team was successful, so the M4 was reopened by National Highways in the early hours, and the reopening of Hatch Farm Way took until Sunday the 21st, as time was needed to make the site safe, removing the equipment and the dismantled pylon. And actually, thank you for the question, because this does give me the opportunity to thank the officers who responded overnight and who worked through the following evening to ensure that everything from our side was coordinated, and for their timely communications to ward councillors and to group leaders.
Thank you. Chetna, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I do, ma'am. Thank you for the very satisfying answer. So my secondary question is, can you please let me know if there is anything left to be done and any lessons learned from it?
Yes, so the pylon will need to be replaced. Fortunately, that will be a planned piece of work, so we will get quite a lot of advance notice about when that's going to happen. It will require some road closures, which we anticipate to be overnight. In terms of lessons learned, so the team has done a full lessons learned exercise. I think overall, I think our response was really good and really quick, but certainly that exercise was done to make sure that we've learned all of our lessons.
Thank you very much. Next question is from Rohit.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is for Executive Councillor for Active Travel, Transport and Highways. The broken pedestrian bridge near the meadows just off Tosland Way, south of Shell Garage by the River Loddon, has been closed over 6 months. And during my recent visit, the resident expressed serious concern about the prolonged delay. The bridge is regularly used by mobility scooter users, parents with a pram, and others who rely on it for safe access across the area. Can the Executive Councillor provide a clear expected timeline for full repair and reopening? Thank you.
Rohit, that actually sits with me because it's a green space and comes under the place clienting team. So I'll be responding to your question. So thank you for the question and for highlighting the concerns of residents regarding the closure. And this is something I've also been regularly contacted about by councillors David Hare and Mike Smith, including Councillor Mike Smith, raising the deteriorating condition through the regular reporting channels and working with officers to explore any possible temporary repairs. Unfortunately, the extent of the failure did necessitate the full closure. When the bridge was initially closed due to safety concerns, we unfortunately did not have the necessary funds available for its replacement. An alternative diversion route has been in place since shortly after the bridge closure. However, I absolutely recognise it has added time for people and has been particularly inconvenient for those with additional mobility needs. As I'm sure you noticed in the budget put forward last month and discussed at CCOS in November, the funds to repair this bridge have been included in the 26-27 capital programme. So following the approval of the budget last month, which comes into effect from the 1st of April, the project is moving forwards and we expect the new bridge to be in place by the end of summer.
Thank you. Rohit, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Catherine, for update on this. The residents are frustrated that while the bridge remains out of use, the council has spent significant time and resources repeatedly installing or replacing barriers. As one resident put it, if they spend the same time, effort and money repairing the bridge as they have in putting up and replacing the barriers, I am sure it could have been fixed by now. Why has this happened? Thank you.
If there are specific barriers, I assume you're referring to temporary barriers in this case. So I'm happy to check in with the team around the temporary barriers, but whilst I appreciate the frustration felt by residents, the capital bid is for £60,000, and I'm very, very confident that has not been spent in working with in moving those barriers. Of course, safety remains paramount for all residents, so if temporary barriers have needed replacing or moving, that has been necessary to keep people safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Move on to the next question, which is from Pauline Jorgensen. Question to the Executive Council for Housing Partnerships and the Local Plan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to ask Stephen, can he confirm that Woking Borough Council is one of the 39 local authorities that have been directed by the government to proceed with making a new local plan on the grounds that the administration's proposed local plan doesn't provide 80% or more of the local housing need under the Labour government's new standard method?
Thank you for your question, Pauline, not least because it enables me to slightly prolong the period when Adrian can take a break before he resumes answering more questions from Jackie and Yusra. So his record, I think, is intact. I think he will be fine. Your question, of course, is framed in a particular way, but let me give you a factual answer. The council, as you know, and is minuted in many meetings, proceeded with its plan under the transitional arrangements set out in the December 2024 National Planning Policy Framework. These transitional arrangements allowed councils at an advanced stage of plan making to proceed under the 2023 rules, which require us to deliver 748 homes a year rather than the 1,308 under the 2024 rules. The government has recently stated that councils like Wokingham that proceeded under the transitional arrangements must begin preliminary work on their next local plan even before they have adopted their submitted plan, if their submitted plan meets less than 80% of housing need using the new standard method. As you say, this position applies to 39 local councils. The council is seeking to make a case to government that we are already in an advanced stage of the examination, and therefore parallel commencement creates real risks. To this end, we are seeking an agreed deferral or exemption route or confirmation of reduced expectations until the examination concludes and the basis for progressing a new local plan is understood. Importantly, the submitted plan will continue to carry weight while any new plan is prepared, providing policy protection for around 3 years. Had the council not proceeded under the transitional arrangements, it would have been required to start again, setting aside significant work and cost, with a prolonged period of vulnerability to speculative development aligned to the 1,300 annual requirement and reduced ability to demonstrate a sufficient housing land supply.
Thank you. Pauline, do you have a supplementary?
No, thank you very much. That was great.
Thank you. Move on then to 127.6, Jackie Vance, to ask a question of the Executive Councillor for Environment and Climate Emergency.
Could the Executive Member for Environment and Climate Emergency please confirm whether a professional firm was used and what did they use to cut back trees and hedges in January from the B3270 Hyde End Road to Sindlesham Mill Lower Early?
Thank you, Jackie. I confirm that our grounds maintenance contractor, Tivoli, undertook the cutting back of the hedges along the Lower Early Way, and both mechanical, so a flail on a tractor, and manual cutting methods were employed in carrying out this activity.
Jackie, do you have a supplementary?
Rather than skillfully prune the branches so that water and nutrients would get redistributed to healthy branches and trim the outside lines into pyramid shapes, removing damaged branches to allow for regrowth, a massacre occurred. 4 miles of flailed and decimated trees and bushes, nothing short of ugly, and many residents spoke to me about it. My supplementary question then is, with our money, because the council doesn't have any money of its own, how much did it all cost? I'm concerned we may have been robbed.
I don't have the exact figure to hand. I will happily get that to you. I would just, there is always a balance to be struck between how long things take, the road closures and traffic management, and of course, how long any regrowth will last. I appreciate the flail does result in less attractive results in many cases, but I'm glad that we are now entering spring and hopefully it will be vastly improved very soon.
Thank you. Next question is from Yusra Salman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Residents living on Residential Road surrounding Willowbank Primary School have raised ongoing concerns regarding parking during the morning drop-offs and afternoon pickup hours. Vehicles are frequently observed parking on double yellow lines, blocking driveways, mounting verges, making nuisance, inconvenience, and causing distress to residents in my ward. Residents have spotted and passed traffic warden on site who evidently didn't serve PCN at all. Can the executive member for highways reassure and instruct the traffic enforcement to tackle and mitigate the impact on local residents?
Thank you, Yusra, for your question. The civil enforcement team monitors over 50 schools across the borough, all of which face similar traffic challenges.
Yusra, is your mic still on? Yeah. It's flashing.
I'll start again. Our civil enforcement team monitors over... I'm still getting feedback of others. Thank you, Yusra, for your question. Our civil enforcement team monitors over 50 schools across the borough, all of which face similar challenges. To ensure fair and consistent coverage, enforcement operates on a rotational basis. Consequently, we cannot guarantee a daily presence at any single location. Over the past 12 months, our officers have patrolled this specific school 32 times. They strive to accommodate additional patrol requests, but increasing resources at one site would inevitably impact the ability to support others. When on site, enforcement officers will in the first instance speak with a driver if they are present, offering clear constructive guidance on safe and lawful parking to promote long-term compliance. This is a sensible first step. Officers do have to adhere to statutory guidelines, which include a mandatory 5-minute observation period for vehicles on yellow lines to account for legal exemptions such as blue badge holders or essential loading. If a vehicle leaves within 5 minutes, a parking ticket cannot be issued, and that may be the case, particularly around school drop-offs when parents are only stopping for short periods of time. Hopefully from autumn this year, we will also have the ability to take enforcement action within those same guidelines against parking on the pavement, which is a particular hazard around schools. Also, our Safe Routes to School programme is aimed to encourage people, make it safe and attractive for people to travel to school other than by car. I appreciate that may not always be possible for everybody, but getting fewer cars around our schools will very significantly help with road safety.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary, sir?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your answer, Adrian. But it's still the residents on the Uppingham Drive, Stanford Drive, and Brunel Drive, they are still complaining here. Although I agree to your... sorry? Oh, sorry. Okay. All right, yeah. So thank you for your answer, Adrian. But the problem is residents are still not happy, and especially from the Uppingham Drive, Sanford Drive, and Brunel Drive, they are actually quite annoyed with the situation. And it would be a good idea if you could please reconsider your visit to that site, yeah, please. So that would make a difference maybe. And you can see, and parents are not parking just for 5 minutes there, unfortunately. They're parking like before 15 minutes earlier, sometimes maybe 20 minutes earlier. So it's a lot of time, yeah. And they're just talking on phone and things like that. So it makes nuisance in the area. So it's a noise pollution, yeah.
Thank you, Yusra. If you have specific points you'd like the enforcement officers to consider when they visit, I'm very happy if you'd like to send those to me. I can pass those on. As I say, we do have a finite resource and all schools suffer from these challenges in the morning and indeed in the afternoon. And so I can't promise that we would give additional coverage, but we could perhaps make the coverage we do have more effective if you'd like to give me those pointers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to make sure that we get all the questions in, so I'd like to propose that the Council Procedure Rule 5.14.8 be suspended to allow all councillor questions to be heard. Do I have a seconder, please? I think I have several. Thank you. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Anybody against? Alex, any abstentions? No, that's carried. Thank you. Right, where are we up to? Shona Turtle is the next question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could you please provide the current headcount and percentage change in the number of children and young people in the borough receiving support under the new system, SEND system?
Thanks for your question. I'm not quite sure what you mean by the new SEND system. Although the government has announced the system will be changing, no changes will come into effect for several years. So meanwhile, I can give you the figures for the children receiving support under the current system. I'll try and speak slowly so that you can pick this up. So as of October 2025 school census, there are 1,532 children with EHCPs in Wokingham schools, which is 5.2% of the school population. And there are 3,368 children with SEN support in Wokingham schools, which is 11.3% of the school population. And those figures will include out-of-borough pupils who come into Wokingham schools. The January 2026 school census data will be finalised in the first week of April. At the end of February 26, there were 2,453 EHCPs maintained by Wokingham, which is 4.3% of the Wokingham population of 0 to 25 years. Some of the children and young people in this cohort may be placed in out-of-borough schools. And just to give you the national context, as of early 2026, 14.2% of pupils had SEN support nationally, and EHCPs were 5.3% of pupils.
Thank you very much, Shona. Do you have a supplementary?
Thank you, Prue. What do you perceive will be the greatest challenges when the new SEND system comes into being and as you're planning for it? So how will the new SEND provision create for the schools and the children and for parents? And what steps do you think you'll be planning to mitigate for each of those challenges? I know it's a bit early, but
It is very early in the process. We still only have a white paper. I think we know the thrust is towards mainstream inclusion, but we are already working on that. We have our SEND sufficiency plans to provide the right sort of placements, whether they're in mainstream or additional special school places. But at the moment, we haven't got the final shape of what this will actually look like. What I do think we are going to have to pay a lot of attention to is the anxiety amongst parents of children with existing EHCPs and children who might be thought to qualify for them under the existing system. The new thing that's been outlined is to have preserve those plans for the most seriously challenged children and to introduce 3 levels of support. I think they're called targeted, target plus, and some acronym that I've forgotten that has an S in it. That will kind of build up to the levels of support, but nothing will be done under that system for about the next 3 years. So it's only at that point that we'll start actually assessing children under that framework. But given that we don't actually have the final shape of the framework yet, we're only really guessing what that will do. But I do detect, and I'm sure I'm right in this, that parents are very, very anxious that their children will not get the support that they need, and we need to keep reassuring them that we will try and look after their children as best we can as a council.
Thank you very much. Next question is from Caroline Smith. A question to the Executive Councillor for Adult Services, Health and Wellbeing.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Adult services in Wokingham are extremely hard-working, bringing positive outcomes for many of our vulnerable adults. We've seen recently the Social Care Futures initiative happening with many other helpful actions, in addition to the opening of our own care homes. What is even more amazing is this is all happening against a backdrop of years of underfunding, along with increases in inflation, extra NI contribution, wage increases, and not forgetting the significant increase in demand for our services. Now, with the extra loss of funding in the fairer funding misnomer, can you please tell me how our adult services are going to overcome all the negatives and still supply an exemplary service that Wokingham is noted for? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Caroline. You're absolutely right to recognise both the dedication of the adult services workforce and the increasingly challenging context in which services are being delivered. Adult social care in Wokingham is operating against sustained national underfunding, a growing population that needs support, and underpaid, overstretched staff. As Baroness Casey said in her recent speech, a system shaped for a different age, held together with add-ons and workarounds, sticking plasters and glue. These pressures are not unique to Wokingham, but the impact of the recent fairer funding changes has further compounded an already difficult position. Yet this council is taking a deliberate and person-centred approach to sustaining high-quality services rooted in our adult social care strategy and the Social Care Futures Charter, which puts people, independence and community at the heart of how we care, is designed and delivered. We will try to shift the system, working with our partners, including the VCS, to develop our approach to early action in Wokingham. Invest where it improves outcomes and values. The Council has taken the strategic decision to invest in its own care homes and specialist accommodation. This improves local choice, creates greater stability to the local care market, and then support and develop our workforce. Our workforce strategy recognises that exemplary services depend on skilled, motivated staff. We are focusing on recruitment, retention, leadership development, staff well-being and productivity. We're delighted with our recent CQC assessment of adult social care in Wokingham, performing among the best in the country, with services rated outstanding.
David, could you start to get to the end, please?
Okay. In partnership and communities and in learning, improvement and innovation, with good across all other areas.
Thank you very much. Caroline, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I do. Thank you for your answer. You mentioned in your answer Baroness Casey saying that adult services was a system stuck together with plaster and glue. How long can this go on?
How long is a piece of string? But yes, the system is broken. It's very much broken, and many councils find it very difficult to survive in adult social care. There are councils which have waiting lists month long, and we are very privileged, I believe, to be so good. And this is reflected in some of the results that councils have in their CQC assessment. As a forward-looking council, yes, we're surviving very well. And part of this, I believe, is thanks to the excellent work of our voluntary sector. They do a sterling job helping to stop people get onto the slope of needing social care, working with them before, and that's what we try to do as well, before they get to that place. And as an authority, I believe we'll strive to give people who have to use our services an excellent service. But, and I say this quite succinct, quite really, this will become harder and harder as funding decreases. And there will be a time when the government has got to step in and change a broken system. Certainly, I believe that...
Point of order.
Yeah, can carry on.
Madam Mayor, members' question time is an opportunity for members to ask questions of interest to their residents and get a straight answer from the executive. It's not an opportunity for planted questions in this pantomime we see going on at the moment. Please, can you stop this pantomime going on and give an opportunity for the members to ask real questions to get real answers? Thank you.
Thank you. You didn't actually say which point of order or which standing order it was.
I'll email the reference to you, madam.
Thank you very much. That's very kind. David, would you just complete that question or the answer to that supplementary, and we'll move on, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I believe that we all must wait for what Baroness Casey says. Certainly her speech after 1 year was very encouraging. She has seen some of the problems and some of the difficulties about social care. And I believe that when she brings out her report, it will be something that the government has to implement to save this nation.
Thank you very much. We move on then to Chris Cook.
I'd like to ask my question to the lead member for Children's Services. The government has recently announced in its schools white paper that they want more children with SEND to be educated in mainstream schools, that this is generally better for most children, though not for all. How many working and borough children with SEND are currently educated in our mainstream schools, and are we moving in the right direction as far as the government are concerned?
Thank you for that question. As I think you heard me say earlier on, but I'll repeat it because numbers probably go in one ear and out the other. As of the October 25 school census, there are 1,532 children with the HCPs in Wokingham schools, which is 5.2% of the school population. And there are 3,368 children with SEN support in Wokingham schools, which is 11.3% of the school population. And those figures include out-of-borough pupils coming into our schools. So Wokingham education system has been moving towards an even more inclusive mainstream provision, and we are in the right trajectory in that direction. So 45.7% of our EHCP children are supported at mainstream schools with education outcomes that are consistently better than other local areas. And in England, 43.6% of EHCP children are supported in mainstream schools, and in the southeast, 42.5%. And I'll just repeat ours again, 45.7%. So both are lower than Wokingham Borough, with mostly worse education outcomes than us.
Thank you, Prue. Chris, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I do. What are the plans for providing more supported places in mainstream schools?
Okay, so I have here a handy sheet. We have a SEND sufficiency plan, which has a SEND expansion programme. And there are a number of specialist units coming with that at our primary schools and secondary schools. So 2 early years specialist expansions, 3 primary resource bases, 3 secondary resource bases, and then some post-16 hubs and something called an alternative provision review. But if I can give you the sort of timetable, we're looking at we're looking at 4 resource bases in 2027, 2 secondary and 2 primary, for various different sorts of need. And then the Spencerswood Primary School, which I had a question about earlier on, which is due to open in 2028, will include an autism resource base. And then we will also be looking at 2 more resource bases in 2028, one for social, emotional and mental health in primary and one in secondary. And then another resource base in secondary in 2029. So I think that's sort of outlined. There's more than that, but that's all in. That's what we've bid for in the MTFP and what we've got in our programme so far.
Thank you very much. The next question is from Andy on to the Leader of the Council.
Yes, thank you. My question is to the Leader of the Council. I'm a former district councillor in Hong Kong. I was forced to resign and leave for safety, and I moved to the United Kingdom where I was warmly welcomed. I am grateful that the Liberal Democrat recognise and value my experience, and with the support of the people, I become the first former Hong Kong district councillor elected as a borough councillor in the UK. Like other Hong Kongers and people from diverse community, I believe an inclusive society is not only morally right, it also allows us to make the most of our abilities, contribute to society, and help make our country stronger. Rockingham is a wonderful place, but what more can the local council do through public institution and community initiative to promote these values? Use diversity to strengthen our borough and showcase this so others can follow. Since being elected, I have tried to make the most of my role inside the chamber, outside the chamber, on the street and on the line. To serve the community and stand up for justice, I will continue to fight. Let's strike for our values, strike for social prosperity, and strike for this great country. Thank you.
I think there was a question in there. It was, as I can see, it's written in front of you. You can see it's in the penultimate paragraph. Thank you, Andy, for sharing your story and for the leadership you show through your service. It's a powerful reminder, I think, to all of us that democracy and inclusion are not abstract ideas. They are lived experiences. Wokingham is a stronger place because people like you with who know what lack of democracy and lack of liberty truly mean, choose to serve this borough. We want everyone to feel that they belong and can thrive here, including recent Hong Kong arrivals. That ambition sits at the heart of the Woking community's vision and reflects the Marmot approach, reducing inequalities, tackling the causes of poor outcomes, and giving everyone the best chance to live well. To make that real, our focus is on practical delivery of our equality, diversity and inclusion policy across the council with our partners. First, we're embedding inclusion into everyday decisions and services. We're strengthening how we use equality impact assessments, improving the quality of our equality data, and training managers and commissioners so that evidence is used to redesign services where outcomes are unequal. This includes key services such as social care, housing support, customer services, libraries and community safety. Second, we are working with communities through genuine co-production. That means moving beyond consultation by working with trusted community organisations, using forums such as the Voice of Inclusion and Equality, improving translation and accessible information, and creating clear routes for underrepresented communities to shape decisions. Third, we are using our role as an employer and commissioner to turn diversity into strength. This includes inclusive recruitment and progression, widening work experience and apprenticeships, and setting clear EDI expectations through procurement. We will continue to stand firm against hatred while celebrating every contribution to civic life. Our aim, put very simply, I will, Madam Mayor. Our aim, put very simply, is to create truly inclusive communities where everyone, regardless of who they are, can thrive.
Thank you. Andy, do you have a supplementary?
Yes. Thank you for your response. Regarding the measure in Rockingham that support inclusive and diversity, I believe many residents, including myself, feel very proud to live here. May you take every opportunity to promote these measures and the spirit behind across the borough and across the country. I also appreciate your kind word about me. I believe everyone has a duty to do their best for justice, freedom, and equality within their own ability and capability. And I, Andy Hong, am simply trying to do my part. Thank you.
I think I heard in there a question about broadening our efforts to ensure that the benefits of inclusive communities are conveyed throughout the borough and beyond. And I'm very happy to say that we are fully committed to doing exactly that. It's worth saying that we work, of course, with other Berkshire councils through the Berkshire Prosperity Board. The Berkshire Prosperity Board has recognised the importance of creating truly inclusive communities where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. And this is something that we are promoting in the Berkshire Prosperity Board. It's readily accepted by councils of all political complexions in that board. And we will continue to press this case because, as you quite rightly say, Andy, everyone benefits when we have truly inclusive communities. It enables people to realise their potential, but it also benefits all of us because untapped talent is an enormous waste, and we benefit when talent is given chance to express itself. So thank you.
Yes, Prue.
Standing Order 5233. I am objecting to the fact that the Conservatives are mocking somebody who's talking about public service and their experience and laughing at their question on a very important issue.
Sorry,
and I would ask that
Madam
you
Mayor.
ask them not to do that again.
Madam Mayor, I don't know if we've got a fourth official in here, but I'd like someone to get a yellow card for time wasting now.
Here.
Right. On that basis, we move on to the next item then. Item 128, which is the minutes of the committee meetings and ward matters. Can those councillors who wish to speak on this item please raise your hand, and please keep it raised so we can make a note of those wishing to speak. Ten, yes, I think 10.
Oh, 11. Go back. 10.
10. Okay, you can put your hands down. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to call Shahid Yunus to put his question, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Adrian, you're such a popular person, so I've got another one for you. In May 25, I asked a council question and raised serious concerns about the condition of the road, Reading Road in Woodley, particularly between Western Avenue and A4, highlighting extensive potholes, cracks, and the importance that it is a key B road and it's a bus route as well. I received a formal response to my question on 16th of March 2026, 10 days ago. While I appreciate the response, it is almost 10 months from the question, when I asked the question. And the road condition has even got worse. It was also previously stated that the road maintenance schedule would be published once finalized. And as far as I know, this remains unavailable. So can you please provide a firm publication date for the schedule and confirm whether Reading Road in Woodley will be included in that schedule? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I believe the email, the council's weekly email moving around the borough this week will include that information. And if what flashed up on my screen at about 7:20 this evening was what I think it was, then that's now in the public domain. So that includes a list of roads. The timing for that activity is still to be confirmed. There's work still to do on scheduling that and aligning all of the work this year with other roadworks that are going on. But people should be able to look that up when they get home this evening if they subscribe to that email. 21,000 people do, and see which roads are in the schedule, which roads and footpaths indeed are in the scheduled maintenance programme for this year, and the extent of those works and the type of work that will be undertaken.
Right, thank you very much. The next one is Andrew Gray, please.
Thank you. A couple of months ago, I raised with Highways, sorry, this is to Adrian, sorry. I raised with Highways the junction with Beak Avenue and Westall Street in Shinfield, where there have been a number of collisions. The response I got was that there was going to be a meeting with the developer, the police, and I think a representative from the council. I just wonder if you know of any update with this. I appreciate the road isn't adopted yet, but anything that the council can do to move forward better signage or better road markings on this dangerous junction would be appreciated.
Thank you, Andrew. I wasn't aware of a meeting involving the police. However, it did come up in the meeting we had with Shinfield Parish yesterday. The challenge from our point of view still is that it's not adopted. However, officers did ask the parish to write to us with the details, and we can talk to the developer through the Highways planning team. It may well be that they've built what they were given permission to build, in which case our leverage will be limited. However, if they haven't, there will be some leverage. I am familiar with the junction myself, and indeed the Loddon Garden Village design code visit that a number of councillors went on used it as an example of bad practice. It is quite an extraordinary junction in the middle of a residential area, and I hope we can find a way to improve it and probably tighten it up so that people don't have the opportunity to go through like it's the first bend on an F1 circuit.
Thank you very much. Martijn.
I've got a question for Adrian as well. Would the executive member of Active Travel, Transport and Highways be able to provide an update to my fellow councillors on the outcome of the first cross-party working group on access to Twyford Station, which took place on Tuesday?
Thank you, Martijn. As you say, the group met for the first time on Tuesday, and we were joined by a representative of Great Western Railway who gave their perspective on the issues around accessing the station and explained the actions they have underway. The group reviewed passenger demand forecasts and travel demographics of passengers. We discussed potential options being considered for improving access to the station by all modes of travel, including improving the main station forecourt. The meeting was collaborative and constructive, and I believe the work undertaken to date by the council was recognised and well received. The best solutions are likely to come from co-development with partner organisations, and quite a few of the issues discussed will remain confidential until these ideas have matured and we've had the opportunity to develop them in consultation with the relevant stakeholders potentially involved. However, I look forward to a further meeting of the group in May, ahead of presenting an update to the executive later that month. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sam Akhtar next.
Thank you. During the recent resurfacing, a much-needed upgrade of Pound Lane in Sonning, which has been greatly appreciated by residents, one of the work vehicles actually knocked over a Keep in Lane sign on the central reservation after the works was completed. This sign is now in danger of toppling over into the road, a road directly outside a primary school. Could WBC please prioritise removal of the repair of this sign before it falls onto a moving car? Additionally, it would be appreciated if future works across the borough and the ward could adhere to practices ensuring any damage caused during works is promptly addressed while teams are still on site, where possible, which would save work teams having to come back, costing more money and causing additional disruption.
Thank you, Sam. We do always inspect the work of our contractors. I can't say whether this point was picked up at the time or indeed if it's been reported. Could I ask you to please report it as an issue using our road/report online form? And we'll certainly look into it, and I'm sure it can be fixed. If it is work that was, if it is damage that was caused by the contractor, then we would expect them to cover the cost of that. But obviously I can't say without further information. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Catherine Glover, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is for the Executive Councillor for Environment and Climate Emergency. A playground at Blackwater Close, Spencer's Wood, is in a dreadful state with weeds growing up through the bark chipping surface. One of our residents has written that the time we have with our kids is so precious to us and very limited by the need to work more and more due to ever-increasing bills. So please can you provide the current rota for the play areas to be cleaned and maintained by the council, and are they being monitored and adhered to?
Thank you for your question, Catherine. And yes, the play areas are very important, as me and my family know intimately. I don't know the specific site in your question, but I will ask officers to look into that. As a general point, all play areas managed by WBC are inspected on a weekly basis to ensure safety, and that is the primary focus. You know, are any items of equipment coming loose, and could they be a risk to users? Regarding weeds, these are sprayed seasonally, and that is to normally in spring and in the autumn, has to avoid particularly wet times and so on, because obviously we want to ensure that the chemicals used are used as sparingly as possible, as effectively as possible, and not impacting the wider environment. Bark chip is meant to be topped up annually, and this is part of one of our contracts. I am aware that there have been a number of issues with patchy application, not to do a pun. Some play areas have been done appropriately, some have not. Remedial works to address that are in the plan for this year, and I'll happily follow up with the team on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Peter Harper.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This question is also for the member for, leisure, member for playgrounds. Climate change, but leisure as well. At the February budget meeting, there was a sum of £200,000 allocated for the replacement of end-of-life play equipment at the FBC Centre. Can you please give a brief update on the scheme's progress and confirm that the council is still committed to providing 50% funding for this work?
So in terms of the funding, absolutely, this council approved that funding in February's meeting. So, and we're very thankful to Finch Hampstead Parish Council for providing the other 50%. I don't know off the top of my head the exact work schedule, but I'll happily follow up with you and get that over to you.
Thank you very much. We move on then to Caroline.
Thank you. I think Catherine's on a roll here. Question for the Executive Councillor for Environment, Climate and Emergency. It was very useful to have a walk around the area of Chelfham Park in Early recently with yourself as the Executive for the Environment, along with a senior officer and a representative from the cleansing contractor. It was highly informative in understanding more about the detailed operation related to grounds maintenance and litter removal. Last Sunday, I took part with many residents in the huge early litter pick. My focus was on Cheltenham Park. It was disappointing to see the amount of litter, particularly around the car park, that was mostly related to the nearby fast food outlets. So please, can we have a campaign, including more signage, to encourage people to dispose of their litter responsibly? Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline, and thank you for participating in that first walkabout. We have since done one more at South Lake, and these will be continue around the borough. And I also found it very useful, I think, getting out onto the ground and really seeing how small things are coming up, but also how policy decisions are impacting over the long time is essential. And thank you, and everyone, I suspect many members of this council took part in the annual litter pick last weekend. I think that is one weekend it's great to see, but also I know we've got many Adopt a Streeters who are out week in, week out all through the year and make a really big difference to our borough. Regarding the car park at Cheltenham Park, that's a real shame, particularly given I think when we were there, it was actually reasonably litter-free, and I understand that there is staff from some of those nearby fast food outlets who actually help to keep the park clear. So that's fantastic with that engagement. But ultimately, individuals buying food, coming to the car park and dropping that on the ground it's not acceptable. So I'm happy to ask the team to look into signage, but also broadly whether there is any more enforcement action that can be taken, though this will, of course, move over into the antisocial behaviour team as well, regarding whether we can take any further enforcement action.
Thank you very much. It's Vishal next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think this is also for you, Catherine. Last weekend, I went to a litter pick in Shinfield, organised on behalf of Shinfield Parish Council with a few of the other members of my team. And what I found was not just that there's litter on the streets, but also in nooks and crannies where no one's really, it's supposed to be littering. So I just wanted to know what the council is doing to make sure every single spot is being checked when cleaning up.
So thank you, Vishal. Much appreciated. So I'm sure, as you appreciate, we have a huge amount of streets in the borough to keep clean, and we have to make most efficient use of our resources. The majority of this is through the sweeping. Obviously, if there are areas of litter or fly tipping, please do report them, and crews can go out for additional cleansing. To be honest, I think it's unrealistic that we would always be able to get into every nook and cranny, but I welcome reports to identify where these problems are. And again, like to thank, to be honest, the litter pickers from across the community who go out and probably are very successful at getting into those places. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chris Cook.
Right. I'd like to ask a question of the Councillor for Community Safety and Public Protection. Has the Public Spaces Protection Order now been granted that we were consulting on, and what impact is it having on our ability to deal with antisocial behaviour in the town?
Thanks, Chris. So, yeah, as you're aware, we had the PSPO granted for 3 years from September 2022, and we agreed to extend it. That was signed off, or rather put into place, came into effect in February, so last month. It'll be valid for another 2.5 years. Since it was extended, our ASB officers have issued 7 fixed penalty notices, so kind of shows that it is still needed. They've also met with Thames Valley Police to talk about how they will jointly enforce, and now Thames Valley Police will pass any evidence that they have of any breaches to our ASB officers, and they'll administer the fixed penalty notices, and that gives us the ability to collect the data and really understand what's happening where, so we get that kind of overview. Interestingly as well, I'm using this rubbish microphone, sorry, the feedback. Interestingly as well, Wokingham Borough Council and Milton Keynes are the only 2 councils within the area covered by Thames Valley Police that have these sort of anti-car meet public protection orders in place, and Thames Valley Police are actively encouraging other local authorities to put them in place. So thank you for the question.
Thank you very much. And the last question is from Andy.
Okay, thank you. The Wokingham Borough Council owned a footbridge next to Early Railway Station in my ward of Greater Early at Whitegate. It's in poor repair. There have been many plans over the past few years to address this issue. It is good to know that the medium-term financial plan allocated £1.3 million for repair this year. Please could the executive for active travel, transport and highway provide an update on the repair and the likely schedule? I know that access to the work site is difficult, being between the station car park and operational cemetery, the railway and the motorway. But this bridge is so important for so many residents. So let's get it started. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. I should say this is relation to the WBC-owned footbridge over the railway and the motorway rather than the early station footbridge, which is a different footbridge with a confusingly similar name, which also has its issues. That's the responsibility of Network Rail. This is the responsibility of the Council. The Council has let a contract for the design, maintenance and repair of the early footbridge. It says early station footbridge in my answer. That's not helpful. This is, however, still in an award phase whilst we await all the necessary outputs from the contractor. It will be a design and build contract and rely upon a close working relationship between the Council, the contractor and Network Rail due to the location of the bridge and the rail access restrictions placed upon works of this nature. The intention is for the work to be undertaken and completed in the coming financial year 26-27, but at this stage an exact commencement date is not available. The duration of the works will be determined by the volume of repairs to the bridge, which is currently for the contractor in the design phase to determine. Contractor is also to provide a work-phased methodology including all access requirements. We don't think they will require access through the cemetery, but restrictions to the car park will be necessary during one phase of construction. Again, the extent of that restriction and duration of the work cannot be given at this time, and as with anything affecting the railway, we are to some respect in the hands of Network Rail. As soon as the contract is finalised and programme details are known, these will be communicated by the Highways and Transport team overseeing the work, and we will work closely with local stakeholders, including the Town Council.
Thank you very much. That brings us to item 129 then, statements by the leader and executive councillors. Stephen, did you want to start us off?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As we're now nearing the end of the municipal year, it's time to thank the officers of the Council for their hard work and commitment over the last 12 months. It's been a challenging year, with the Council facing a significant net reduction in its government revenue support, but as always, our officers have demonstrated that they are the Council's greatest asset. Without their dedicated service to the public, we could achieve nothing. I should also like to thank all councillors for their hard work on committees and in their wards over this last year. For some, this will be their last council meeting, as several colleagues will not be seeking re-election. As there may be more than I actually know, apologies if I miss someone out. But I think I want to thank those that I do know of. So I'm going to start with Alex Freeney, who I think we can honestly say has been a breath of fresh air in the chamber and throughout the council, not just in the chamber. Adrian Mather, a very distinguished former mayor and committee chair, and Stuart Munro, a former executive member and long-serving councillor, very long-serving councillor. And I'd like to thank them all for what they've done for the council and for their communities. And I wish them well for the future. We can all look back on a year of considerable achievement, and I mean all look back on that, despite the financial challenges. The Council is receiving regular external plaudits for its performance. The planning inspectors, who have been examining our submitted local plan, approved its passage to Stage 2 hearings, which are now taking place. At the end of Stage 1 hearings, the inspectors gave unusually fulsome praise to our officers for the way in which they presented the Council's case. And I should like to say again how grateful I am to our planning officers for the expertise they're displaying and professionalism. Our adult social care service was judged one of the best in the country in a recent Care Quality Commission assessment. Our council was shortlisted for Council of the Year at the prestigious Management Journal Awards. Susan Parsonage, our excellent CEO, has recently been shortlisted for the Management Journal Chief Executive of the Year Award. And to remind you once more, the council, which in 2024 was rated 5th best council in England in terms of outcomes achieved per pound spent, this year went up to 2nd place in the well-respected Empower Index. This is quite a set of external validations, and I look forward to working with councillors of all parties in the new municipal year to continue to strive to make Wokingham Borough as good as it can be. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Could I ask which executive members want to speak? Okay. Mark, would you like to?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I speak as Executive Member for Business. Our town and village centres in Wokingham Borough matter deeply to residents, businesses and to us as a council. So I understand why people feel strongly when they think they're not performing as they should. But we must start with the facts. Latest footfall data shows Woodley and Wokingham town centres are performing strongly against national trends. And despite the major roadworks, only 10 years ago, Wokingham town centre was far quieter. Regeneration has brought thousands of new residents into the area, creating a customer base that simply did not exist before. We must also be clear about our identity. We're not Reading or Bracknell, and we should not try to be. We are building something different, a distinct Wokingham Borough offer focused on the experiential, an 18-hour economy, and giving people a reason to visit, not just pass through. Yes, infrastructure works are disruptive. We share that frustration, but they're essential about long-term improvement, better traffic flow, fewer bottlenecks, and less time spent in queues. Historically, through traffic has been a major issue. Cars passing without stopping. These schemes will help change that. Congestion will ease, accessibility will improve, and Woking will become more of a destination. Long queues deter visitors. Removing them creates our opportunity. And let me turn to parking. This debate is really not about the absolute cost of parking, which is relatively low. It's about behaviour, the irritation of paying, the worry about overstaying, and small barriers can discourage visits. And our businesses contribute significantly through business rates, around £100 million each year, but most of this goes to central government, a staggering 96 million. Our ambition is clear. We want town centre access to be as easy as possible. Ultimately, we'd like our town centre car parks to be free. But we must be honest, removing charges overnight would mean cutting services elsewhere. At a time of severe financial pressure, this is a risk we will not take. We will continue to manage finances responsibly while making the case for fairer funding via our businesses' massive rates contribution. We all want vibrant, successful town and village centres that is shared across this chamber, but achieving it requires honesty about the challenges, discipline in our finances, and a clear focus on long-term improvement. Residents, businesses, and our council working together is the only way. So it's up to us, it's our responsibility to talk our towns up. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mark. So it's just Adrian and then Prue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I can now confirm that the list of roads and footpaths to receive structural maintenance in 2026 has been published on the Council's website, and the link was sent out to it at 7:09 this evening in the Moving Around the Borough email. This year's programme again focuses on the roads and paths most in need of maintenance, based on analysis of condition from the Council's inspection programme, which covers all roads and footpaths. It also takes into account the need to deconflict with other roadworks, some of which are long-term, and of course the available budget. Anyone using the roads this year will have seen the impact of January's extreme weather, with pothole reports in January alone exceeding the 7 previous months combined. With freezing temperatures and incessant heavy rain, cracks open in the road surface, and as traffic passes over, the surface breaks apart to form a pothole. This local picture reflects a growing national problem. The latest annual local authority road maintenance, or alarm report, concluded that the cost of bringing roads in England and Wales back to a good standard has now risen to £18.6 billion, up from £16.8 billion last year. In short, government funding for road repairs has not for many years kept pace with the rate of deterioration, though the current government has indicated we will receive meaningful increases for the next 3 years. Council's highways inspectors identify many issues, and we are helped greatly by resident reports. Following these, across January and February this year, the Council repaired 679 potholes, with the most serious generally being repaired within 2 hours of first inspection. Proper structural maintenance is the best and most cost-effective way to reduce potholes. This year's programme again includes full plain and inlay resurfacing and surface dressing on the basis of need and cost effectiveness. We continue to innovate, and this year we'll be trialling surface retexturing to improve skid resistance where needed on roads which are otherwise sound. Whilst we were one of only 7 local authorities rated amongst the top performers for both road condition and the use of best practice by the Department for Transport, we know our roads fall short of what residents want, and we are far from complacent. Despite financial pressures, the Council is increasing its investment in road maintenance, the coming year's budget up by 8%, and further increases planned over the next 3 years to seek to turn around this situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Fu.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's 2 things I want to update you on, and the first is related to the government's SEND reforms, which are included in the Schools White Paper. So the first thing to say is this is a white paper, so what finally becomes law may differ. But I don't think there will be any change in what has been announced with what's going to happen with regard to the Dedicated Schools Grant, or DSG. And I think you know the government have made a welcome announcement that in the autumn they will take action to write off 90% of the DSG deficit as it stands at the end of this month for every council. In our case, that will be worth roughly 48 million being written off out of a total of roughly 53 million. Although that figure does not sit on our books at the moment, what we do have to do is account for the interests on the debt, which is yet another pressure on our revenue budget. We now know what the conditions are to get the write-off. Each local area will have to submit a SEND reform plan. The first draft needs to be with the Department for Education in mid-May, and the final version needs to be with them by mid-June. The department will need to approve the plan before the write-off is granted. And there are 3 components to it. One is a vast, and I mean vast, spreadsheet of all the data that has to be submitted to allow them to measure all aspects of SEND performance. And the second is something called a maturity matrix, which is a self-assessment of how we think our local SEND partnership is working. And the third element is the plan itself. And the word partnership is crucial because the reform plan is not about the local authority, it's about the local area partnership, which includes schools, the Parent Carer Forum and the NHS. And each partner has some specific parts of the maturity matrix that apply to them individually as well as collectively. And the same is true of the data and will be of the plan too. So producing the plan in the time frame laid down is a challenge for everyone, not just here in Woking Borough across the country. And to start with, there is an expectation that the plan will be co-produced with all partners working together, which, to be honest, does not seem very realistic, given that there are only 9 weeks to do it. In addition, during those 9 weeks, some local authorities have to deal with reorganisation. Many, like us, have local elections. The integrated care boards, who are the NHS partners, are all undergoing reorganisation and amalgamation, and schools will be breaking up for the Easter holidays. So the DfE does not seem minded to relax the deadlines at all, although the risks, particularly to co-production, have been flagged to them. There is an awful lot riding on getting our local reform plan approved, nearly £50 million. It's a very big prize, so we are doing everything we can to make sure our area gets the plan right. So you'll be glad to know the second thing is a wholly joyous thing. So every year, Woking Borough's primary schools are given an opportunity to perform in a concert at the Hexagon. And this year's were on Saturday and Sunday, just gone, with over 800 children from 33 primaries taking part. And I was lucky enough to go on Sunday, as was the Mayor, and it was absolutely wonderful. The concerts are put on by the Woking Area Schools Music Association, but one of the people who has contributed the most, not just in organising, but in providing the music with the band, is David Congdon, who works here at the Council in Children's Services. And David has been involved with WASMA for over 25 years. He expects to retire within the next 12 months, so although he will not be giving up all involvement with the concerts, next year will be very different. And I wanted to thank him publicly for everything he has done for music in our primary schools over many years, and to congratulate him and everyone else involved, especially the children, on what was a truly joyous event.
Thank you, Pooh, and you've got your mic on still. I would agree with that. It was amazing. So how they remembered all those words is beyond me. Right, item number 130, which is statements from council-owned companies. Anybody? Stephen?
Madam Mayor, I will never apologise for councillors being given the opportunity to ask questions of executive members. I think that's a vital part of the meetings that we hold, more vital in my view than almost anything else we do in this council chamber. However, I am very conscious that we have 2 motions to debate. Sadly, I fear we're only going to be able to debate one of them. And in order to enable us to get to the point where we can at least debate that first motion, I will waive the statement I was going to make about council-owned companies. That can wait, if necessary, to another meeting. So I would propose that we now try and move to the first of those motions without further ado.
Thank you, Stephen. We can do that then. Item 131 is a motion. We've got motion 539 from Councillor Dave Edmonds. Would you like to propose that motion, please, Dave?
Yes, I certainly would. You've all read the motion.
Sorry, I was going to ask you for a seconder afterwards, but could you ask it? Thank you.
You've all read the motion. I propose this motion because at its heart it is about something very simple. Trust. Trust between this council and the residents we are here to serve. Over recent months, we have seen a pattern emerge. The administration has launched consultations, invited residents to give their views, and encouraged engagement. On the surface, that looks like good democratic practice. But too often, what follows undermines that entirely. Residents take the time to respond thoughtfully, constructively, and in good faith, only to find that their views are disregarded and the original proposals proceed unchanged. That is not meaningful consultation. That is box ticking. And when consultation becomes performative rather than genuine, public trust begins to erode. As Conservatives, we take a different approach. We trust residents. We believe that the people who live in our communities understand their needs, their concerns, and their priorities better than anyone else. Our role is not to go through the motions of listening, it is actually to hear, to reflect, and to adapt. We want to work with residents to develop solutions that are practical, balanced, and rooted in local reality, not imposed from above and not pushed through, regardless of feedback. What is particularly concerning is that this issue goes beyond consultations. We are also seeing a pattern where positions taken during elections do not align with the decisions taken in this chamber. Residents are told one thing on the doorstep, promises are made, opposition is voiced, and then, when it comes to a vote, the opposite happens. The example of Hall Farm is a case in point. Campaigning one way locally, then acting another way when it matters most, sends a very damaging message, and what is said to residents is not what guides decisions here. If we are serious about democracy, that cannot be acceptable. Democracy is not just about winning elections, it is about governing with integrity, consistency and accountability. It is about respecting the voices of residents, not only when it is convenient, but especially when it is challenging. This motion is not unreasonable. It does not seek to obstruct. It simply calls for this council to take consultation responses seriously, to properly consider them, to be transparent about how they influence decisions and, where appropriate, to change course. In other words, to treat residents as partners, not obstacles. If members truly believe in listening to the communities they represent, then supporting this motion should be an easy decision. Let us restore confidence in the way this council engages with its residents. Let us show that when we ask for views, those views matter. And let us demonstrate that here in Wokingham, democracy is not just a word, it is a practice. I urge members to support this motion.
Thank you, Dave. Is there anybody that wishes to speak against the motion? Okay, I need to then ask the seconder, Pauline, do you want to speak now or reserve your right?
I'd like to reserve my right.
Okay. Those that want to speak, could you put your hands up and keep them up while we note your names, please?
Excuse me, Madam Mayor. Could I have a bit of clarity, please? We think you just said, would anybody like to speak against it? To put their hands up. There's some people who would like to speak in favour of it as well.
I think I missed a sentence in between. Sorry, it's getting... I asked to speak against so I could move on, and then I failed to ask if anybody put their hands up. So is anybody who wants to speak for it? Right. Sorry, guys, you're going to have to keep your hands up a bit longer. Oh, okay, you can relax. Right, we've got 9 speakers. Can we start off then with Andrew Gray?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to start off with just addressing one of the points that Dave made in his speech, which was that the Conservatives take a different approach to consultation. I'd like to give you an example, if you'd like to cast your mind back to 2018. There was the consultation on schools crossing patrols when the Conservatives were in power. There was a consultation about whether people agreed with it or not. The Conservatives wanted to go ahead with axing school crossing patrols, and 393 people responded to the consultation. How many people responded in favour? Just 9. And what did the Tories do? They went ahead with it. So for you to say that the Conservatives take a different approach to consultation is just plainly false. There are many flaws with this motion. Whilst I agree with the principle of transparency, and that's important, there's just too much in this which isn't deliverable, logical, or desirable. Firstly, your point on strengthening feedback. The council cannot instruct overview and scrutiny to look at things. That's the job of chairs. So that point really doesn't make sense. The second point really is that we've got to remember that consultations aren't referendums. We can't just say that if there's a majority against or in favour of something, that that's what we go with. And this needs to be recognised, and this motion suggests that we should move to a referendum approach with consultations. Meaningful consultations need quality responses over just quantity. And we want to be hearing actually what residents have to say rather than just looking at numbers, because that's where we make progress from quality responses which we can think about and act upon. And of course, the motion also neglects to talk about the overall level of responses. From this proposal, we could say that if there were 20 responses, and 11 of them said we're against this, then we'd scrap it, okay? And that's just plainly ridiculous. So by treating consultations as referendum, you ignore inherent bias as well. People who strongly oppose things are far more likely to respond to consultations than those who are just content with what's happening. And it also, consultations are often skewed by different demographics, and it doesn't always hear everyone's voice. So we can't just go with the majority every time and scrap things. So consultations do need to be meaningful and democratic, but they're not referendums. And this motion is just simply too flawed to be considering passing today. Thank you.
Thank you. Could we, Vishal, I've got you next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Local government is not just about making decisions for residents, but making decisions with them. And it's about ensuring that when we ask people for their views, we do so sincerely and not with the predetermined decision that we'd go through with whatever we decide anyway. I know for a fact that residents too often are encouraged to engage, complete surveys, and attend meetings, share all the feedback that they want, only to feel like the outcome had already been heading in that direction. This damages confidence in not just the consultation, but the council itself. This motion does not ask the council to completely abandon decisions whenever there's a majority consultation against the consultation. All it asks is to either give a reason or to make it into something better that reflects the feedback received. Or if the council feels that it must proceed, then there's a reason and a clear evidence-based fact for why that's necessary and why there's nothing else they could do. That's accountability. And residents do not want token engagement. They want honesty. They want to know that if they give up their time to participate, someone is genuinely listening and not just listening for the sake of it. We often say that we put the residents at the heart of decision making, and this motion gives us the opportunity to prove it. If you want people to have faith in this council and in the decisions we make, we must show that consultation is not just a PR exercise, but a real part of how decisions are made. And we must show how transparency is not optional and accountability does not begin and end on election day. Supporting this motion means supporting better governance, stronger trust, and healthier relationship between the council and its residents. So I hope all of you support it.
Thank you very much. Adrian is next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This motion asks that we reaffirm our commitment to being an open, transparent and accountable authority that puts residents at the heart of decision making. pretty much what I think we did when we approved the consultation and engagement strategy executive last week. I will say I take personal exception to the implication that there's dishonesty afoot here. I'm disappointed that the view is being peddled, the mistruth is being peddled, that the council does not respect consultations. If you take the trouble to read the extensive written responses to consultations and to watch the IEMD meetings that are publicly available, you will see that residents' responses are fully respected, but that's not the same as obliging that a referendum is followed. In highways, we carry out informal consultations to understand residents' views on the big questions prior to formal consultations before we enact a change. Twice this year, when significant issues have been raised in formal consultations, the recommendation from officers has been changed, and I have accepted that changed recommendation to reflect residents' views. You are promoting a principle that consultations, often with only a tiny population of the affected population responding, should be treated as a referendum, regardless of the evidence and the council's responsibilities. In the unlikely event that you win power in the future, I wonder if you will govern in the way you propose, outsourcing your responsibilities to small sections of the public for fear of innovating and being challenged. What would be the point of such an executive? You will no doubt have heard the quote from Machiavelli: there is nothing more difficult to take in hand, more perilous to conduct, than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things. Innovators have for enemies those who have done well under the old conditions, and lukewarm defenders in those who may do well under the new. In a nutshell, that is the difference between the last administration and this one. This administration is not afraid to take difficult decisions in the long-term interests of residents and is happy to be held account for doing so.
Thank you very much. Shona.
I've spent considerable time engaging with residents, gathering their views on Wokingham Without Ward and the service of Wokingham Borough Council. There has been several recurring comments and complaints. Residents moved to Wokingham Without for its greenery, forests and safe environment. However, despite rising council tax, they feel they receive less value and believe the council lacks genuine concern. Maintenance budgets have been cut, street signs are so dirty they're unreadable, litter remains on the grass verges, and overgrown shrubbery obstructs footpaths. Wokingham Without residents want significant investment in road maintenance, properly repaired potholes, and durable street dressings. They're frustrated by blocked road drains that cause flooding and further road damage. While they understand financial constraints, they feel taxpayers' money is wasted on frivolous schemes and delayed projects. It's time to stop squandering resources. We need to listen and act. We must hold our contractors accountable, enforcing strict monitoring and penalty clauses to ensure work meets the highest standards. We must prioritise cleaning street signs, trimming overgrown foliage, and restoring sight lines for drivers to enhance road safety for everyone. These issues matter deeply. The quality of life, surrounding and well-being are more significant than we realise. Health and welfare are crucial. When councils neglect public spaces, it creates a cycle of neglect amongst residents. If surroundings are littered and pavements neglected, residents feel disheartened and less inclined to take pride in their community. They feel let down, and this sense of abandonment leads to further deterioration, ultimately resulting in higher costs for us all to address in the future. We must listen, be accountable, and put residents at the heart of decision-making.
Thank you very much. Move on to Alex Freeney, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was expecting a suitably theatric speech from Councillor Edmonds about democracy, and I certainly have no toes left uncurled, so thanks for that, Dave. My dad is a civil engineer and has worked in public infrastructure projects for about 40 years. He told me about the gunning principles, which explain the relationship between governing authorities and consultees. So I suggest that if you have any issues with how this administration is carrying out its consultations, that you go away and read those. All of that is fairly boring though, so what I'd like to talk about is democracy. In this country we have representative democracy. We don't vote for policies, we vote for representatives. So if you would like a policy, then vote for a representative which supports that policy. The last time we tried direct democracy in this country was in May 2016 when we voted to leave the EU, and I think most of us would agree that that has turned out to be a bit of a dog's dinner. During the 2011 Tottenham riots, LSE did some polling on what the public wanted the police to do, and shockingly, over 30% of people supported use of live ammunition. As the first ever Labour councillors elected in Loddon Ward, me and Greg can tell you firsthand the power of effective policy offerings as a representative. We had 3: bus to Twyford, deal with antisocial behaviour, and secure more funding to Woodley. And after only 2 years in this position, I can say with pride that there is now a working group on the bus to Twyford. We have secured CCTV for Woodley Precinct, and I believe that there is a slush fund going around for some sort of growth project in Woodley Precinct. So that's all fantastic. But I think sometimes representatives could benefit from a reality check. A study in May 2024 found that only 11% of people in the UK have ever read a party manifesto. And turnout at the last Wokingham elections was 38%. So the overwhelming majority of people in our borough don't know and don't care about what we do in this chamber. Now, I think it would be a real mistake for us to agree with the majority in this case, because the work that we do in here is important in spite of the fact that most people don't know and don't care about it. So consultations are a bit like TripAdvisor. They give you a decent indication, but people are more likely to type something if they're unhappy. And in a world where democracy is increasingly under threat, I'm glad that we live in a country governed by elected representatives and not by an angry mob. I'd like to finish by thanking the people of Woodley for lending me your vote for 2 years. It has been the honour of my life, and may God bless you all. Amen.
Thanks very much. Stephen, and then you next, and then I need to leave time for the seconder and the proposer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This motion, as earlier speakers have said, and I particularly highlight Andrew's excellent speech earlier, this motion mixes up voting and consulting. Consultation is not voting. Its value is primarily qualitative, not quantitative. It's the quality of argument that counts, not numbers for or against a proposal. The motion seeks to bind the council to abide by majority views, however unrepresentative the responders may be of the general population, even when very few people have responded and whatever the subject of the consultation. While parts of the motion comply with the gunning principles that were mentioned by Alex and could be supported, parts do not, and parts conflate voting and consultation, and this is a fundamentally flawed approach which discredits the whole motion. And I would like to thank the Consultation Institute, who are the custodians of industry standards, for their advice on this matter. The Consultation Institute, and I spoke with them today, point out that there is no precedent for a body being required to reconsult on new options because the number of people objecting to the original proposal. In fact, the Consultation Institute provided me with details of 2 cases that show consultations is emphatically not about majority views. These legal judgments establish case law precedents in the English common law system and need to be appreciated. In 2011-12, Lady Justice Arden ruled that true consultation, and I'm quoting, is not a matter simply of counting heads. It is not a matter of how many people object to proposals, but how soundly based their objections are. And in 2017, Mr. Justice O'Farrell ruled that there is no obligation on the consultor to adopt the majority view based on feedback during a consultation process. These rulings make it very difficult, if not impossible, for councillors in good faith to support this motion because it is flawed and it is not in line with the gunning principles. And therefore I would urge councillors to vote against this, even if there are parts of it that they may feel they could support.
Thank you. Pauline, you've reserved your right. Did you want to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a bit surreal here. I wonder if anybody who's spoken against this motion actually read it. The motion does not suggest that consultations are referenda. What it asks is for people to take it seriously, rather than making decisions before they hear the feedback, and factor the feedback that they do get into any decisions. I hear positive comments in the chamber about how good representative democracy is from members opposite, but I'd remind you that democracy was under threat in Shinfield, where Lib Dems bemoaned the fact that residents would have a choice of representative and wanted to co-opt. So I'm pleased to second this motion. Consultations may not be referenda, but it's important that we genuinely listen to the people and ask for their views.
Sorry, Pauline, can I ask you to, Stephen, have you got...
Yeah, yes, Madam Mayor. I think Councillor Jorgensen... Well, I'm clarifying what she said. Councillor Jorgensen claimed that we had not... that the motion did not say the majority rules should count. It very explicitly
Hang on a minute. Excuse me, this isn't the point of order.
A point of personal explanation, which I can understand where you're coming from, but I don't think it is. Pauline, would you carry on?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Residents and local businesses who take the time to respond are often those most directly affected. They understand the practical realities, the benefits and the pitfalls of proposed changes far better than the council or councillors who may be more removed from the day-to-day impact. This is especially true when large numbers of people respond. We saw this clearly with the Lib Dems administration's decision to impose new parking charges and their choice to remove swathes of litter bins. In both cases, residents spoke loudly and clearly, yet their views were brushed aside. When consultations produce overwhelming feedback, the responsible thing to do is stop and listen, not dismiss the results and plough on regardless, or even worse, when the council says, "You said, we did," when you did the precise opposite to what people said. This undermines trust not only in the process, but in the council itself. Even when the council can't deliver exactly what residents want, it still owes them the courtesy of a proper response and a clear explanation. Riding roughshod over people's views is not consultation, it is box ticking. For those reasons, and because residents deserve better, I'm proud to second this motion.
Thank you, Dave. You've got the right to reply.
I want to reiterate the point that my colleague, Councillor Jorgensen, said. I don't think anyone's actually read or fully understood the motion, which is a shame. So let's go through it together. The council resolves to champion democracy, reaffirm its commitment to being an open, transparent and accountable authority that puts its residents at the heart of decision making. I'm sure some of you do have a problem with that as a criteria, but I certainly don't. Respect consultation outcomes. Adopt a principle that where a formal public consultation shows a clear majority against the proposal, the council would either, notice the word either there, not proceed with it, or will review it and come up with an alternative proposal factoring in the feedback received. Next part, listen carefully. If this is not possible, the council will provide clear and evidence justification as to why the original proposal must be retained and the alternative courses of action proposed are not feasible. For the avoidance of doubt, any alternative proposal produced will comply with statutory and broader legal criteria. It does not say this is a referendum. It does not say that every consultation is binding. It says that we should take it seriously, we should respect the people we represent, and we should try to behave as we should in a democratic society. One of the parties in this room has the title Democrat in its title. I hope they decide to remove that if they don't support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now move to the vote. Could I see all those in favour of the motion, please show. All those against? And are there any abstentions? That's carried, isn't it? That's, sorry. 27 against. Okay. That motion falls. It's 27 against. That concludes this council meeting. Thank you very much for your attendance.
I just wanted to do that.